regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, if you could please take roll and read our mission statement.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in the global community. Board Member Cunningham. Here. Board Member Rashawn.
Here.
Board Member Sutton's absent with notice. I'm Board Member Fortune. I'm here. Board Member Steyer.
Present.
Board Member Telto.
Here.
Board Member Gillis.
Here.
Okay, we do have a forum. We also have, quorum. And then we also do have our student representative, Elizabeth Schaefer, present with us today.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved. Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Walmsley.
You should have received in front of you a revised personnel report in the packet. This personnel has the some upcoming retirements. Jennifer Dorsey at the elementary school and Autumn Walters will be retiring and be recognizing them at the June board meeting. And then Mary Elbreth from Child Care and Roy Wagner have submitted resignation letters. We also have a new hire, John Burke, and then a new appointment, Jamie Clausen. She will become the Director of Student Support Services beginning next school year. So the official start date will be August 1st, 2025. Other than that, I received no other questions.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Walmsley?
No question, but I just want to comment. I'm excited to see Jamie Clausen move into that spot. She's going to bring us much needed dedication and integrity to that spot, so I'm excited for her.
I would agree with Margaret on that. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, Mr. Walmsley, I believe is going to do our future millage bond consideration.
You also should have in front of you the PowerPoints and handouts, which I'm going to go over with you on, so you can either feel free to look up at the screen or the handouts. So for the last several months, we've been talking about a future millage and bond, which will be coming to the board to make a final decision in May, and then ultimately they have authorized the application, and then in June, the language for the ballot initiative. We've had several conversations, meetings, really for the public and the community. We've had the 3 board meetings we've talked about this at. And I know at some of the board meetings, there's been people here who've asked questions and heard what we had talked about. We've held 2 community conversations. The February 18th was canceled because of the weather. They weren't as strong a turnout as I would have liked. However, in talking with people that I just run into in the community, I can tell you every knows, or at least I've run into, is aware that we're considering a bond. So it's not known. So, and then ultimately we are over March, in the beginning of March, we held 3 staff luncheon meetings. They were open to everybody in the district. We held them at 3 different buildings to gather input and thoughts that the staff had. So we had at March 10th, 12th, and 20th at the 3 buildings. So when we talked as a board member, these were some of the big picture items, or at least items that were talked about. There might have been some other conversations throughout it, clarifying, but at the middle school, we talked about looking and costing out what it would cost for a future second story, put the infrastructure in now, so that if we ever had to go up on the building, we'd have the infrastructure in place. We talked about an auxiliary gym off the new multi-purpose room gymnasium at the middle school, possibly moving 4th and 5th grade lunch there, or as enrollment grows, we'd have a secondary kitchen area. We've talked about student restrooms in a variety of fashions. Main bleachers at the high school were talked about, as well as the collapsible wall at the middle school. I think there's a lot of items that we talked about, but these are kind of some of the bigger picture items. When we talked with the staff, these are some of the things that came up in those discussions when we met at the middle school. They were talking about storage in the classrooms at the new addition, the conversation about having cubbies that have their own personal space in the classroom versus lockers. Generally, the status was keep 4th grade with cubbies, 5th grade and up having issued lockers. Well, there were some that would like lockers and some that would like all cubbies in the classroom, but generally, kind of how we have it now. Quieter ventilation systems, we've been looking into that. There are certain ventilation systems that are a little noisy when they kick on, and so I visited some of the classrooms after this meeting, so we have those working with our HVAC to see what's the issue, because they shouldn't be that noisy. Some of the comment were technology boards not covering the whiteboards. This was a result of putting the whiteboards in the bond, and then later we upgraded the technology, so we had to put them over. So I would envision the new technology in the new classroom would be similar to the elementary school, where you've got the board and then the whiteboards are on the sides, which doesn't overlap. From a timing perspective, we were able to do that at the elementary school. There was a lot of conversations about no restrooms or restrooms in the classroom, particularly the 4th grade. Currently, 3rd grade and 2nd grade do not have them in there. Neither do any of the 4th grade now. The general sense is they would prefer not to have restrooms in the classrooms, rather have to go down to that community restroom in the hall. No automatic toilets. Oftentimes kids will set them off and you'll just hear noises going on and on. So some schools do put automatic toilets in to make sure it's flushed, but it also has some problems on the other end. Consider counters with sinks and drinking fountains in the classrooms, particularly at the 4th and 5th grade level in that new wing. All 3 buildings in some fashion talked about charging stations or cards or some type of increasing the electrical capacity for laptops and so forth. And I'll talk a little bit about that one. At the middle school, there was suggestions adding storage to the high school auditorium, maybe like a green room or something off the auditorium to increase the storage between not only the theater program but the choir and the band programs there. The elementary toilet at the teacher's lounge was brought up. It's too low. We've had 4 years of this renovation. This was first that I was made aware of it. It is too low. It is designed for an elementary, so that is being replaced. I believe Dar said tomorrow the contractor's out to replace it tomorrow to get a big person toilet in there. Middle school gymnasium scoreboard was brought up on the list. Remove the steps in the middle school choir room and make it a level floor. Currently, if you've been in the middle school, it's like a tiered where you put chairs and have kids stand, kind of like a built-in riser, if you will. At the high school, moving tennis courts on campus was a suggestion or an idea to talk about. We would need 8 tennis courts in order to be able to host anything. Currently, we do not have enough to host an event in the city. Varsity baseball press box, just in general, was brought up. That does need some doors and a roof, which could be done internally through our operations budget. This is truly a wish list, and it was kind of throw it out there. Lights on the baseball and softball fields allows them to play in the evenings. Badge access to the high school media center. Again, this is one of those things that has been on someone's mind, but it has never been shared. Oftentimes we have staff who work late. Sometimes they come in on the weekend. This area is locked. They have no way to get to, I believe that's the color copier. They have no way to get to the color copier if they need a copy for the classroom for Monday or the next day. That can be an easy fix. I don't think that's a bond issue. There was conversations regarding student desk at the high school. We spent a lot of time, or I shouldn't say a lot, we spent some time kind of how we got the desk and that committee and the looking at whether we wanted cubbies under the desk or holders, something to hold bags and so forth. Right now, we anticipate we're going to need some student furniture with the additions pending the bond passes or the millage passes. So we could look at redeploying what we have to those newer areas and maybe looking at some different types of furniture. Like we did at the elementary, we got adjustable seating and so forth. And teacher laptops, and that was just a follow-up because the process we needed to fix to make sure it's consistent in all buildings. Typically the teacher laptop that they turn in over the summer is the one that should be issued. It hasn't, so sometimes they get a laptop that's hasn't been taken care of as well, and they want their original one back. So that's a procedural thing that we can fix. But we have money set aside, which has led me to the opportunity to talk to the staff about the set-asides that boards have been doing for the last several years. At the elementary school, it was brought up at music room storage at the middle school. In the new music room that would be in that addition, making sure we have sound panel treatments in that room, putting sinks and drinking fountains in that music room. Again, they're talking about the new addition. Windows, this was the first I mean, eventually at some point we're going to have to look at windows and replace them because at some point, like we do our houses, they just become less energy efficient and so forth. This was the first, there was one person that had a concern that, or at least expressed a concern about windows and replacing windows. That is not in the cost that I'm going to show you tonight, but just, it's probably another future thought that at some point it's going to come up. There's some concerns expressed about eliminating the stage at the middle school, possibly to be able to expand that cafeteria, to be able to account for seating. Again, another person brought up the teacher toilet in the staff lounge. Adding sinks to the elementary and middle school steam rooms. The elementary school is a lot easier to do than the middle school because it butts up against the plumbing and water that's already on the other side of the other room next to it, which is the art room. But it can be done. Adding an art, or kiln, excuse me, to the art room or another area in the building at the elementary school. Mrs. Campbell does a lot with ceramics, and so she lugs or drags them, carries them, wheels them from the elementary school over here to the middle school to use their kiln here. Again, charging stations or some type of electrical upgrades in the classroom. I think all three buildings recognize the challenge with this because when you look at the walls of the classroom, there's not a lot of space to put plugs, like a drop for an outlet, so we have to think of some creativity. I spent a lot of conversation with the kindergarten teachers and some of the preschool who had dropped in, talking about a larger area because the kindergarten playground is where the addition would be at, and so we'd have to relocate that playground or put a new one in. Space it out with the number of kids, and particularly you have 125 kindergartners, that area is very tight to put all of them in one area, so if the equipment could be spaced out more so that you have less issues with kids, makes sense. A light up sign by the Lois Wagner Library as you're coming off 32. Request to have that sign lit. So those are the ideas. So nobody in the process said, hey, we shouldn't do this addition, or I don't think it, none of that came out in the process. So I think everybody was very positively received. I think even the couple of community members that we had in the first one, I think see the bigger picture and recognize that this is a need. This isn't really about a lot of wants we want in the district, it's satisfying a need that we're going to have in the district. So in your packet, you'll see an updated PFM sheet. This one on the screen is probably very familiar. It's what I've used in all the presentations, every board member. It talks about how we get that $51.78 million. And then it talks about, we have in July of 24, and this coming July, we're expected to have a drop. We had a drop last year and a small drop this year. We talked about on July 26, that's when the big drop happens, and that's what we're asking the voters to do, is instead of it dropping, if you'll continue paying the millage, that creates the no increase. The papers that you have from PFM are updated as of April 22nd. If you recall throughout this process, everything has been contingent about what's going on now, okay? So the actual yield on the interest rate, the actual bond is still the same, 51.5. What has changed is the interest. It's actually upticked what potential interest we would be paying on the bond, which means you have less money to pay for the bond. So as that, before that gets locked in, and you gotta remember, for those of you who were on the board last time and anybody new, if it's approved in November, we're selling the bonds end of January, February. So if interest still goes up and up and up, and we've got to pay a higher interest rate, our number of what we can do is going to have to shrink because we'll have less money to do it. So when you look at this sheet, it actually is 51.57 as of today. So it's a slight decrease. It's not significant at this time, but it is a decrease. A little less than $200,000. The packet that you have in front of you, I just want to kind of go over. The first one is the sheet chart that I gave you. The back page just talks about, gives you some historical knowledge and trends of average interest rates, et cetera, or taxable values. They're estimating the taxable value increase over the life of the bond in 20 years is going to be about 2.5% increases every year. You can see in some of those years, in 2008, 2010, it dropped the values of house, again, with the economy at that time. The second page talks about all of our existing debt. There's one that's titled 2017, which is the front of the second page. 2017, we refunded bonds to save the taxpayers' interest rates. So with that bond at that time is set to be paid off in fiscal year 27. We have the 2020, which is our first bond series, Series 1, is set to be paid off in 38. And again, that first bond, that drop, is part of that 1.7 drop in the July of 26. When you flip to the back of the second page, you got the 2021, we refinanced bonds to get a lower interest rate. Those are set to go in or reduce in 27. And then we had our second series from the 2019 bond that was approved by the voters that we sold in 22. And you can see where that one's set to go. That was a much smaller bond. It was under $1 million. And then you can see the next two are just kind of, again, it's a lot of numbers and information. But what PFM is recommending, we have a follow-up call tomorrow with them and Hawk and French's to make sure the scope of the bond, that if we sold this in two series, Series 1 generating about $26.1 million and Series 2, which would generate 25.4, which is the very last page, to make sure that dollars received would cover what we would need to pay our bills once the construction gets underway. So I guess it just, the point I want to make on this one is just that it is critical in timing and what's going on in the economy. You know, 51.7 is a lot, or 51.5 is a lot of money, but if we're paying a lot in interest rate, our scope of our project is going to have to reduce. Okay. You also have a cover sheet that I gave an email that PFM sent along with this. Just says that it just gives you, there's a lot of verbiage on there. It's a financial mind that's writing this, but basically, at some point before the end of the year, we're going to have to make a decision on, do we want to decrease the mills 0.2 to go from 6.7 to 6.5 this July, or do we keep it at 6.7 and then just do the 1.7 drop? As you read that, it's not going to impact anything with the vote, but it just outlines kind of, you can do a second attempt in May if you wanted to, the series. If you can spread the series out so that there's a certain time frame within it, you'll save on interest, is what the conversation with PFM and Hawk and French's would be about tomorrow. Is this timing the right timing to sell these series? So Again, there's a lot of information on there, but we're still going down the path as we talked about, basically a little over $51 million. We sell it 2 series, so the first series, we have the money to pay the bills for the first phase of construction. So, any questions at this point? The other unknown is what things are going to cost. You know, when we place that bid for steel, if rates keep going up, it's going to cost more. All of the costs that are built in here in the next phase that we're going to talk about do assume buying this at a certain point in the future. That's the way they predict and they cost it out, so they built it in. And that's part of what we got when we did the last bond. They built in those future cost increases, but the way things happen, things actually reduced in cost when we did it. That's why we came in so much came in under budget. Who knows with what's going on with taxes and tariffs and all that, and jobs, et cetera. So that's one thing we'll look at.
So one question I got regarding the 8 tennis courts that was brought up previously, is that something that, based off of what we're projecting, that we would even have room for it this time?
We aren't even talking about tennis courts. That's just what conversation, they have everything, but we have not talked about anything to do with tennis courts.
Right, yeah, prior to this, yeah, for sure. But I would just, because it was the staff meetings that came up.
Let me phrase it this way. So what I'm going to go over is costing out the expansion. And there are some things that aren't part of an expansion that are on the repair. Like there are some roofs that are due to expire during the course of this bond. I also asked Balkan to cost out things that, like the addition, if we want to build it so that we can put a second addition, what would that cost us to do now rather than in the future? Because you can't do it on existing structures now unless you redo it. So I don't believe they costed out tennis courts, but I asked them to give me a cost on it so that you have an idea of what that would cost in the future.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's what I was asking. Thank you.
So the sheet you have in front of you totals $76 million. And so what you have here is you're going to see different columns, a priority 1 and a priority 2. Priority 1 is basically here's what we need to make sure is done, or that's our first priority. Priorities 2, if things come in under the budget, this is where things would fall. This is not finalized yet, because as you can see on this summary total, we're still $8 million over just being within the scope of the bond. But there's a lot through this process going through. So I'm going to go through each building and just kind of highlight, for those that are in the audience, it's very small, but in the board, it's not much bigger, but it's still. But the first page, when you turn the cover, is the elementary school. And you can see throughout this that the elementary school totals about $11.2 million. And what that includes, again, looking at priority 1, there's not a whole lot in priority 2 column. This is where the team, being the architect, the construction manager, the administrators, start looking at, and the board, if there's a certain priority that is the board's that has to be in priority 1, now we just got to move things between columns. Just kind of go down the line. Kitchen expansion, classroom addition, storage in that kitchen expansion, the restroom addition, which would be on the back side of the kitchen for the outside and the plumbing and so forth. It's totaling about $3.3 million. When you look at site work, you're going to see some, just the cement work, the playground equipment. There's about $500,000 added to the playground. I know that's a lot, but that's, we spent $350,000 on the 2013 bond for that red, white, and blue playground structure at Lee. That's 10 years ago, that's over 10 years ago, so that's not a whole lot in the big picture. There's a playground allowance of another $350,000. That's in essence moving the playground from where it's at, primarily the kindergarten, to the south side of the building, right along the fence line, kind of in that grassy area there, which would allow it to be a preschool kindergarten playground. That's the underground retention basin, that's drainage in that system, and so forth. The only other spot we could put it would be in kind of the courtyard area on the other side of between the gym and the kindergarten wing to get your bearings in that space. But it still would need some underground retention and drainage system. Looking at what type of surface, whether it's we could stay with wood chips or we go with some type of rubberized surface. Preschool, the rubberized surface wears a lot better, preschool and kindergarten, than older kids. Older kids, just picture a swing, they drag their feet, they drag and they wear that rubberized off. Kindergarten, not that they don't do that, but they don't have enough body mass to make an impact in it, if you will. Talk about fencing. The 160 in drainage improvement is about the existing playground, right, backs up to the blacktop by the gym. Oftentimes that floods, it doesn't drain quickly, especially in the freeze and thaw, or you get a heavy rain, you'll see pools of water that will form there. That's to fix that drainage system. The parking lot expansion is the one across the road. There's about $150,000 needed for underground detention systems with that parking lot. You'll see on their roof replacement, entry roof, the current kitchen roof, those are areas that need to be replaced, that are due to be replaced. Again, front entry door, replacing the doors in the 500 wing, which is the kindergarten doors. Those are in the classroom doors, those are replaced. Again, nothing in this should be a surprise at this point. We've talked in some fashion about it. You'll see abatement work, in the 2019 and probably the 2030, that was significantly higher. There's not a lot of asbestos left in our buildings. Taking the existing kitchen and remodeling that to go with the addition. Bathroom renovation. These are not the classroom bathrooms. These are the community bathrooms by the gym, cafeteria, at the four corners, 300 and 400 hallway, and up by the 2nd and 3rd grade. That's a complete renovation of those bathrooms. The classroom renovations, there were some, give me a minute, I have one else, I'll come back to that one. Interior gym partition door, that's about $105,000 to replace that door. Kitchen equipment and relocating the walk-in freezer. The kitchen equipment, to be honest with you, we don't think we're going to need that in this bond at this moment, because we've been buying a lot of the equipment out of the food service account because we have that spend down plan. So that might be something that gets moved over. So at the end of the bond, if dollars are still there, we can still use it for equipment. You see the walk-in cooler, it's moving it, or adding a walk-in cooler, but moving the current freezer. There's a small office door. To me, that would be something that would go on the priority 2 list, that we can do internally. There's a sink added to the STEM room. There's a lot of plumbing. It's easier there, but we've got to do some cabinet repairs because we have to do a different cabinet in there, add the sink and the plumbing, etc. Then you'll see all the technology, fire alarm, electrical service, all that is for the new addition. It's the additional electrical needed, the additional fire alarms, etc. You'll see in this one, you'll see a pull-down electrical cord from the ceiling. To put that in every classroom, in conceptually what you're looking at is a couple of them hanging from the ceiling that a teacher can pull down as a station. To do that at the elementary school is about $132,000. You need the electrical upgrade panel. On the back side or the second page, you'll see the stuff that's in. You'll see approximate architects and engineering fees and construction manager. That's in line with what the industry is, what we paid in the past in the industry. You'll also see items listed in yellow. Those would be items that the district is responsible. We're not going through the construction company. So for instance, in new classrooms, in spaces, we need to add the audio enhancement system, computers, teaching station devices, etc. Clocks, cameras, and phones. That number is looking at, this total dollar value is all of that stuff. So you got an allocation for furniture, And generally, they look at the square footage and give you a dollar value per square footage for furniture. So that's how the elementary looks. So some of these items, like I said, we're gonna probably have to move to priority 2 to get us into that 51.5 million. When you look at the middle school, you'll see quite a few pluses and minuses. The first item, the $13 million, is the actual 4th and 5th grade gymnasium art wing that we talked about. The next item, it's currently in priority 2, is those classrooms on the end of the 4th and 5th grade and on the end of the 6th grade hall. Again, we're just looking at total dollar values, and that alone with those is about over $2 million, just those two, basically it's 4 classrooms. To prep the building for future vertical expansion, it's a $500,000 cost. That's your footings and your steel. Basically what they'd be looking at doing is doing a cement roof rather than the roof that we have now, so that when you add on, the roof, the floor is already there.
Is part of that the potential for an elevator?
What's not in here is the actual cost of an elevator, but this one of the storage rooms where you see this future kitchen storage room addition would be turned into an elevator shaft for the future. So the design would be enough that a part of it's going to go away in the future to accommodate an elevator. If we wanted to look at that future kitchen from a space perspective, that's about $500,000. So to add that beyond what would be the traditional storage you put on a gymnasium, you're talking about $1 million to do for future expansion and a future kitchen. When you look at the next set, you're just talking new construction. This 1.3, adding a drive, loop, and lighting, basically that would be as if we wanted to add a drive down the west side of the middle school to come around and tie into the parking lot. It's about $1.3 million if we wanted to do that. In the drawings, I would show that light paint that in the future, you have the ability to put a road in there. If you wanted to do it now, it's about $1.3 million. Site work, when you're talking the 4th and 5th grade gym in addition, the STEM addition, when you look at that one in the middle school, that's the site work for those 4 total classrooms off the wing. And I can pull up the picture if you forgot. It's at the end of the 4th grade hall now and at the end of the 6th grade hall. You'll see parking lot expansion, which would be basically tripling the size of that parking lot in the back where the concession stand is for the softball field, plus $600,000, talking about underground retention system. If we did the drive loop, it would cost another $125,000 for retention systems underground. We have to relocate the water main because it comes off the west side of the school to the back of the middle school, and that's where the new addition would be, so we'd have to move that line. The current playground at the middle school is roughly where the gymnasium would be. So we'd have to relocate the playground and cost. Older kids' playground cost more. They take a lot more wear and tear, and they're going to be a little more durable. So you're talking about $750,000 to $900,000 there. And abate works minimal. Restrooms, which are all the community restrooms. There's several at the middle schools at almost 1.2 million. Replacing the wood floor, if we wanted in the gymnasium, or the divider curtains 45. Replacing the wood floor in the gym, the middle school gym, putting a new floor, is about $500,000, or excuse me, $250,000.
Ron, do you know how old that floor is at the middle school?
I
I'm just
don't.
curious.
I believe we've got 2 more sands
That we can do.
we can do. And we sanded the high school once since I've been here. We've finished it.
Yeah.
I believe it was right when I got here, they did the
Yep.
the design on it and so forth.
And how long do the sands last typically in between each sand?
We're probably due to look at that high school to re-sand that one and update the road because the paints are starting to chip underneath it.
10 years.
So I'd say about 10 years. Probably got about 20 years on it.
Okay.
The middle school's at parquet floors with all
Yeah.
these little pieces. That's typically not the type of floors they put in anymore. Replacing the locker rooms or the tile in all the locker room on the floors. See there, removing the stage and expanding the cafeteria, about 200,000. You'll see in the next one in the mechanical, there's some areas that we did not do, like the weight room and the locker room air handlers. So replacing those. This would get all the air handlers and everything within the last 8 years that were all replaced.
Brad, can I interrupt a minute?
Absolutely.
If we were to do the new wing with the cafeteria, would we need to remove the stage in the old one?
It's going to depend on, are they serving meals out of that new area?
Got it.
Because otherwise you're having kids get their meals in the kitchen and
And
then walking
walking
down to
Okay.
eat in the cafeteria.
So I noticed up there you had put future kitchen with question mark, so that's not something we're looking at.
There's a storage unit, but in order to make it large enough that if you wanted to turn that storage unit into a kitchen, from the square footage perspective, it'd be that 487,000.
Okay.
So
And
even
they-
just, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
just to turn it into like a serving situation where you're just serving, not necessarily cooking the food there, but serving it?
You could put a serving line in there, and then you'd have the electrical that you need, we'd have to purchase another serving line. But getting the food down there, we're gonna need equipment to get the food down there and keep it at a certain temperature. And then when it's down there, you have to store that equipment somewhere, assuming the room's gonna be used for gym part of the day or an after-school event. It can't sit out in the gym, it's gotta go somewhere. So, and typically when you look at portable serving lines, I mean, there's personnel costs that we're gonna have to build in because you're gonna need time to set it up, take it down. Where our current ones, you just wipe them and they stay where they are, nothing moves. Where a kitchen expansion would be, you keep the serving line in that expanded area, and then you just close the door and the gym can be used.
But the kitchen expansion, though, the idea wasn't that it was going to be part of this. The idea was have that storage, have it set there. It could be, right? Isn't that what the conversation was?
That's it,
Or
so
are
if you
saying this is-
want that space ready to go, so that if when we're ready to, okay, we need it to be a kitchen, that would be that 500 that you would need.
Yeah,
So,
to just set up
correct.
so it's
To set it
there
up.
if the need, not that it's going to be set up as a
Yeah.
kitchen.
That's what this number is, to set it up to be ready to go,
Got it.
to be a second kitchen, if you will, or a auxiliary
Down the
kitchen.
road.
Down the road.
Okay.
I was just looking at if we put it in, would we need to take the stage out?
Would we not have a stage at the middle school at all then?
Generally, districts our size, they
Yeah,
typically
that-
don't have
that's-
two stages.
That's what the conversation was about.
They put all their performances in the auditorium.
Right.
And outside of spring, when you look at band concerts, choir concerts in the theater, the auditorium sits empty a lot. I mean, during the day, the theater class might go down there, but it sits not utilized a lot. So this would be allow them, like, when middle school set up doing their sixth grade band over there, their intro band, they would do it at the stage, or at the auditorium, excuse me.
But what about like their assemblies and stuff? Isn't that where they assemble?
The assemblies allows them to do it in the gym,
In the
that's what they do in the
Okay,
gym.
okay.
The auxiliary gym allows them to do smaller assemblies, so if I want to do a team of all the fourth grade classes,
Okay.
I use the auxiliary gym. And the cost of the auxiliary gym, just like it is here, you have a smaller set of bleachers.
Okay.
I think there's like 5 or 6 rows in our auxiliary gym here. So you still have a smaller area to have it. But currently, they do all their assemblies in the gym.
And then currently,
The
like,
major.
when they, like, the middle school does all of their concerts, they're saying that at the high school auditorium?
That would be where we would do it.
That's not where they currently do it now.
There
Yeah,
are
some
some,
of
like
them they do.
like
They do.
NHS, junior NHS
Yeah.
would have been done at the middle school.
Right.
We'd be moving either everything to the high school or the auditorium,
Okay.
using that.
And then you, just curious, during your meetings with the staff, I'm assuming that this was brought up.
It was more of a concern from the band and choir, Mrs.
Okay,
Shack
sure.
and Mrs. Flor.
Yeah.
On kind of rethinking.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Just the moving instruments.
Right, this is the back and forth with the instruments and stuff. Right, okay.
Because I know we had the band banquet yesterday there, and it was,
Correct.
I mean, it was, they did.
They had it in the
awards.
cafeteria.
Yep, they did awards, but then it was also, you know, because we served food. So I can't imagine to have done that in the high school here.
We wouldn't be able to serve
to
food.
eat, we wouldn't have, you know.
Yes, you can.
auditorium?
Oh, yeah. We used to serve food all the time out
Yeah.
out in
the
out in the lobby area.
And there's nothing preventing that if it's a flat floor, we have a stage, a portable stage that could be set up for, if you wanted it to raise so that people could see, we have a
Yep.
portable
Yeah,
stage.
I suppose you can still use the space, you just wouldn't have the stage.
But we have hosted a lot of events with food in the lobby of the high school.
And to go on your, for doing the lights around the drive, the loop lighting, would it be cost effective or efficient to consider solar lighting versus straight electrical for the long-term cost of that?
We could look into anything, yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting, but the middle school require us to build it so it has the capability on the new addition to take solar panels. There's a new regulation
wow.
that requires buildings over 25,000 square feet. This is going to be 45,000 square feet. Has to be built, doesn't mean we have to put solar panels, but have to accommodate solar panels. And then there has to be room in your electric room to accommodate the solar panel, batteries, the stuff that goes with them. Just as you keep going down, you see the replacing the air handlers, and again, you'll see the infrastructure. The one I want to point out is on the electrical. It says replace and increase electrical services. The middle school electrical still doesn't allow when power goes out to be reset. We looked at that in the last spot. When that system was put in, and I believe it was in either 96 or the energy bond, that they replaced that electrical panel. At some point, there was a problem with brownouts, and a device was installed in it that basically shuts the power down. I'm not an electrician, so I'm saying this right. If it goes below, so you don't ruin your refrigerators and all that, computers, etc. But by putting that device it doesn't turn on after the power goes out. So someone has to come up here and manually turn the middle school on. This would replace that, completely replace it. Nobody will sign off that says, if you take this device out, you're not going to have that problem, and we can turn it back being on, like it was when it was originally put in, just because of the timing. So to take it out, upgrade the electrical for the new addition, and then fix this issue, it's $1.4 million, or $1.3 million, excuse me. So if we don't want to fix, I shouldn't say, that's probably the poor way of saying it. If we don't change it to turn on automatically, that's going to come down. The price will come down. And then you'll see technology infrastructure, obviously the fire alarm system, electrical needed for the parking lot lights. For the middle school, given the number of classrooms, we're talking about $96,000 to do electrical. Again, it's similar to what's in the current middle school science room. You'd have basically 4, I kind of like garage extension cords that come down, you plug them in when you're not using, they pull up, so they don't block the view. That seems to be, I mean, we could get rolling power stands, but then you're having a cord that's running across the floor and so forth. That's a solution there. The walkway lights, I believe it was at the first community member that the two ladies that were sitting over there made a comment, because they talked about the lights going down the side path by high school on the west side. And then we talked about the path. To put lights along that path, what this is looking at is those kind of out of the ground, kind of just shines lights, not street lights.
Kind of waist-high lights.
Kind of waist-high, yeah. Not street lights, because those people's houses on the other side there. That's about $420,000 to light that pathway.
There's a question where could we use solar? I don't know though, with our weather, I don't know, would they stay lit in winter?
I mean, I think it'd be worth looking into anyway.
Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, that path is really dark.
It is.
And then you'll see on there, you'll see in all of these, there's an estimated construction contingency. It's usually a 5% of the total cost. As with any bond, once you open something up or you dig a hole, you find something you didn't account for, didn't know it was there. You'll see in there estimating and escalating contingency. That's for those future costs. We're budgeting something today, but in the future it could be up to 15% more. So you see that line item there is in each building. So for the middle school, it's about 3.2 million under priority one and then another million for contingency when things come up. Oftentimes, that's the money that's unspent.
That's what I was going to
That we
ask.
move to priority two. And then you'll see on the back of that one, or the next page, is the middle school technology. So you're talking about $600, almost $700,000, $800,000, $900,000-ish on technology, classroom furnishing, telephones, clocks, all the raceways, the electrical. This is running all the wiring in the ceiling. This isn't necessarily a computer, it's all the infrastructure to get that computer in the classroom. The next one is high school. That's all on one page. It doesn't go over to two, but you'll see the addition on the high school is about 5.7 million. Site, again, underwater, expanding the parking lot, which is behind the auditorium, the underground retention. This one has a track, recoding the track. The track coating was done, one of the first projects when I got here in 2014. I think it was done that actual summer. That year we did a lot of drainage repairs around the field, etc. But if you look at that track, it's 11, 12 years old, and so you see the blue is wearing off, and eventually at some point it's going to need to be replaced. That could be something that could be a priority too. That doesn't have to be, it's not an urgent need right now, but if funds are there, it's there. Field bleachers, 88 ramps, fixing the bleachers to expand the bleachers. Again, putting more ramps. For 1,000 seats, $672,000.
So that's adding on to our current one at the football field?
That would be expanding. If we wanted to put lights on the baseball field, we put them in, I put them in priority two because I didn't see that as a need right now. But you're talking $700,000 just to do lights on both the baseball and softball fields. Tennis courts, there it is. For $1.4 million if you want to put tennis courts on campus.
Where would those go?
That's what I was wondering.
The only place that I would recommend
Yeah.
is in the back of the middle school, in the back, call the back 40, but in the very back, but you'd have to,
Where the
that old
softball.
where the old
field.
softball
Oh.
field, but at some point you'd have to put that road in to
To
get a
get
small
there.
parking lot back there so that they could be parked back there.
So why, okay, just here, why is this even on the list, even as a priority two? Because
It might come off completely. It was just throughout this process, I was trying to get, if something, I didn't
Something
think
was
about
brought
that. I know, I believe it was Angela Pacito. It made up one comment about this. So I just asked her, what would it cost?
Candace.
Was it Candace?
I did
Candace
too,
did
yes.
bring it
So
up.
that's the only reason why it's on here.
Just
This
to
would,
see.
if we're not gonna do it because it's not a need at this point, but that could be a future bond, that's an easy thing to take off, and then we've dropped our budget down to a 1.4 million.
Is it really, do you think that is, okay, I thought so. Is it like problematic to play at the city?
I don't believe so. I do think it's harder for the girls that can licenses, but I mean, it's also a good, not super far walk.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's not awful or anything to have to
But we
walk
can't
and
post
drive.
anything, correct?
We could do like VWAX, I believe. I think we had it up in
But you can't host the big, you have to have a tremendous amount of tennis courts.
Yeah.
To do it.
That's it.
I'm just coming
Yeah.
from, we don't need tennis courts. That's just weird.
Yeah, no, I
We
just
don't.
wondered if we had a
Yeah,
tennis
yeah,
player,
no.
why they asked.
So
Like, is it problematic?
And my concern, so then putting it on here, so when it comes time for the whole wording and everything, if it's on here, if it's not on here, you can't do something with it, right?
Well, this is-
When you have the, hold, let me
I'm sorry,
finish.
I know.
When you have the extra money, when we've come along the way
Oh, I
and we've
see.
done well, and we've gone to priority 2, the priority 2 things have to fit into what the wording was in
The
the
original
bond
budget.
Correct.
stuff.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
That is
So,
So is the idea of just having one tennis court not a good idea then? or
I guess I would
the
ask the
whole
question this way, if we have already 2 tennis courts, why would we want to pay for 2 tennis courts here
Yeah.
when we have it already? If the idea is we want to expand it because we need it, then yeah, that's a conversation, but to me, and again, this is just Brian speaking, it's a waste of money.
The
If we
problem with
have-
adding them is more so the cost of adding the road and everything
There's
else we
everything
have
else.
to,
You'd
the
have to
parking
add-
lot
you'd have to
that we
add.
have to add with it. in my
It's
opinion.
I
We
mean,
have
let me
tennis
rephrase it,
courts.
you wouldn't have to, but they'd have to park and then walk out to the tennis court, which if you've ever been to Warren Mount High School and some of the other
Yeah,
schools, it's a
that's what
haul to get out to
happens.
some of their,
Yeah.
because they're narrow lots. But again, you're gonna have people, well, why can't we put a road here, put a parking lot? Again, those are costs that you're
Yeah.
gonna have.
but we don't need tennis courts because we have them, we use them with the city, we always have, it works.
Yeah.
Well, all of that, to me, a need would be if we didn't have and we wanted to start a tennis team or, need like that. So that's why that makes me crazy that that's even on there as a priority to just.
No, I agree. I don't know that it's a need. It's obviously not because we have them. But I was just curious what the benefit would be, or if it's not a
Listen,
problem.
Yeah, I get that. I just, having it on there.
Sure.
Just makes me crazy.
Well, if we
But
all,
this is, I'm sorry.
if we all agree that it's not one of our priorities even for a 2, we could take it off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
It doesn't- it won't,
And that's part of where my.
Yeah.
but we're not to that point.
But we're not there,
Correct.
right?
we're getting close.
We're getting
We're
getting
close.
But I
Yeah.
have
But
a
tonight-
treasury
what
meeting
I'm
coming up in
saying.
May.
Okay.
Like very.
Well, because
May-
as we've been
May's-
talking.
May is this week.
coming.
I know.
May is on
Because as we've been
Thursday.
talking, I've been making notes about, well, we could do without this,
Yeah.
or maybe we could do without this, because we're gonna have to. We know we're gonna have to cut
But see,
this.
that's, you
So-
making notes, that's great, but we have to have this is what the conversation is, so I'm
Well, I
throwing it
know,
out
yeah.
there that
I get it.
it's not a need for me, I think it's frivolous because we already have tennis courts, so I would like it to go away.
Yeah, and feedback that I've heard from the
Unfortunately, it
community
might.
regarding the bond discussion, just hearing from the community, there's been a lot of chatter about getting too much sports-specific things versus the infrastructure.
But the reality of that conversation, where is that even coming from? Because we are not talking anything about athletics. So if you are talking to people, because someone else made a comment to me, something about, oh, it's all athletics. That is not what this is even about. So it's our job to make sure those people be quiet and understand that that's not what this is.
Well, sure, no, I understand that.
But
I'm just
that's out
saying
there.
stuff that has come
It's
to
out
me
there.
saying, well, it's this, and
Yeah.
I said, well, that's not part of this.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
kind of ease
But it is
their
out there.
concerns. But
Yes.
I've had people come to me saying, well, as I get information about this bond, if I see more stuff about the sports stuff, then I'm not voting on it. and tried to quell that. But having this in here and having a discussion about it, you know, I would say if we have the capabilities and we have the assets at hand right now, that perhaps it could be something that can be taken out. You know, if it's going to.
Yeah, I just think we're getting really close, so it's just.
If I could make a suggestion, let me just finish going through it.
Sure.
And then we can have the third column that says, absolutely not, move it over there. And let's assume something really came in under budget, and now we're in the wish column.
There you go.
Because this
We
is,
need a-
I started
we
this
need a
conversation
wish
with you
column.
guys in February saying, this isn't about renovating and putting different paint on the wall, and we'd like these lights.
Right.
This is about, we're running out of room, and we have a need here. And so the more we can make sure this is, we need this, I think the better chance we have to sell in the bond. So I just wanted at least, so when you guys are talking about items or hearing things, at least see a number. This is what it would cost.
Well, then we
This
talked
is,
about
nothing
it.
is cheap.
Well,
So-
we talked about it, so whoever brought it up at least realizes as a
Yes.
board, their input was
Right.
considered and we
Thank you.
talked about it.
Yes.
I wasn't saying I didn't
No,
consider
I know,
anybody's
I know.
input.
I know.
Just giving my own thoughts.
You'll see on the interior of the site, we got the restrooms again, the main office, putting a clinic in there, so we have a clinic in the office. Mini gym, that was locker, mini gym and the interior renovations, and that's that none of that, if you've ever seen it, it's not, it's the original tile and so forth. Refinishing the floor, this would be sanding it down. To me, that's something that we could do in a yearly operational budget, doesn't have to be necessarily here. Replacing bleachers, this would be more on the visitor side, if we wanted to. You'll see also here on the top, I forgot, a press box, which would be the baseball, and looking at our current roof on the press box.
You
Again,
think that-
50,000 is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but if we take it in chunks, and we're gonna do the roof this year and replace the door next year.
We could
it's
do
much
that
more
out of our-
doable. Correct.
Okay.
You see the air handlers, which would be the air handlers to the auditorium. We retrofitted them to get the air. They're what, 96, let's assume 98 open. They're almost 30 years old, the actual units that we fixed. A rooftop in the locker room areas, we did not replace those because it just circulates. And we did not put any cooling in the gym, the auxiliary gym at the high school in the last bond. That was true. That was alone in the whole process. Then you see the technology infrastructure, the fire alarms, et cetera, it's in that aspect. Football visitors speakers, you see on that one. In the last bond, the two of the speakers that are on the poles were supposed to be on the visitor side, but when we bought those, we had the regular grass field, and the piping underneath it was damaged. When we replaced the turf, piping was there, but we didn't put speakers on that side. So to put speakers on the visitor side, it's about $30,000. There's a relocating the fiber line depending on where that addition falls and where the existing fiber line is that runs from the high school to the middle school. And then the fiber line runs from the middle school to the elementary school for our internet services and everything. To replace that is about $75,000. Our current line, according to Eric and the MISD, is good for current capacities. There's no necessarily need to replace it. That's why it's in the priority two. Again, you'll see then the computers, cameras, phone system, desk and chairs, etc. The next page is the bus garage. I don't know if it was part of the 13 bond or if it was just a discussion, but it came up in the 19 bond. There is a request for a bus garage lift in this one. And then on the back page, you're going to see the button. We have the list, and recently, basically all the parts have been replaced. We've got a couple more, many more years hopefully on the light that lift, so I don't see this as a need in priority one at this point. Again, when you look at the total cost of a lift, if it's a one-time purchase and we have to do it in a future year, that's another thing I think could go to priority two. And
Are they looking to replace the current lift altogether or get an additional one?
this is
So we have
a replace.
Is I'm sorry, is the lift broken? Did you just say it wasn't
No,
broken?
we just replaced all the guts of it about a year and a half ago. So it's working, it's operational. But, you know, you gotta remember, this bond is passed in 25, sold in 26, this is 27, 28, 29, you're talking 4
Yeah.
years out.
For sure.
You know, I don't know how long replacement part to a lift will last.
Basically, what he's saying and what happened is, that lift, we probably could have or should have done it in 16, whatever it was, but it got moved because monetarily we had to do other things that were priority, and we were able to fix it, get it to work and all that, so that's what happened.
And then on the last page, there's always been, since I've been in a conversation, they would love to have a bus wash system. It's not just about putting basically a car wash in, it's a lot of the underground stuff that you don't even see. Storm retention, the site improvements we have to. A bus wash system, when you look at all of this, is a lot of money.
Where are we washing buses?
How
How are they getting
currently
cleaned?
washing buses?
Well, we contract 4 times a year, it's usually Records Day, that the company comes out and power washes them. We have power washers, and sometimes the bus drivers will wash their own buses and just stay longer that day and wash their buses. We've taken them to the bus garage up here, the car wash up here, back in half, wash it, pull it out, back in the other half, wash it. I'll be honest, I was at I don't remember, meeting at the ISD, and someone said that we should use the bus that the county jail uses for their buses. So I have to call in to figure out where do they take their buses, and it would be cheaper just to do a contract with someone rather than spending.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say, would it be more cost effective just to hire this contractor who comes out and wash the buses, you said 4 times a year, just
We
do it
do.
more times?
Yeah,
I was just
it's
curious.
about, to wash the buses,
Yeah.
it's about $800.
All of them.
Yeah, I just would rather
Right.
contract somebody to come out and do it more often.
I just wanted you to know the cost, so that when
Yes,
someone
yes,
says,
yes, no.
Do-
why don't we have a bus wash?
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Do
It's
most
not.
districts have them, of our size? I mean,
Oh, no.
okay, no. This feels like a.
New Haven had to put one in because in their bond,
It feels like the.
they put language that they were gonna do a bus garage,
Uh-huh.
and it got cut, so they had to put something in over there. It's
Okay.
not no, it's not for our side.
Okay.
Your Uticas, your Warren Cons, they have, they're.
Because there's so
big.
many
Yeah.
buses.
They have hundreds of buses on the roads
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this isn't a parity.
So if New Haven uses our mechanics, why can't we use their wash station?
We can explore. Listen, we haven't put a lot of energy in finding a spot. Just says so.
So when they go to the local car wash to wash the first half and second half, which, hey, if you get the work done, where's the money coming for that? Is that coming out of the driver's pockets to wash the
Not
buses?
supposed to, it should come out of the supplies, but some drivers pay their own. It should not come out of there, not part of their.
Right, I guess that's what I'm wondering, because if we already had contractors specifically for this, why would it be coming out of the driver's pockets to get that?
They-
done?
You're choosing to.
It's like a teacher.
Sure.
Why did you choose to buy red folders? I want red folders,
Okay.
okay? I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it shouldn't, nobody should be paid to wash the school vehicle.
Yeah, okay.
They just want to drive around in a nice clean bus. Represent
And they should work in a district that doesn't have dirt roads.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
because,
So I guess
Okay.
where, the direction I'm looking for you from now, and maybe it's just kind of the things you've ticked or created a list, are there things that are absolutely no, move them to, I'm gonna call them the third column, that isn't gonna show up in the scope of the bond application, because as you can see, this total is $78 million, $76 million. There's no way we're gonna get it unless we're gonna increase it, and that's not what I'm recommending.
Yeah, we need to get rid of like $20 million. Because we're over budget.
Yeah.
$20
Well,
million.
if you look at priority one, column, everything in priority one totals $58 million.
Okay.
If we're going around the $50 million, $51 million number, we're really talking $8 million. The bus, everything on the back page is a priority too, that's not on there. The tennis
Okay.
courts are a priority too, that wasn't on there.
Okay, so I have a question. Okay, if we're gonna, are we
All
looking at this,
priority
are
twos
we
and
asking?
priority threes. I think so too.
So
Right
in
away.
priority one, when we talk at the elementary school about expanding the parking lot, is that,
Necessary?
yeah.
At the elementary.
That's a loaded question.
I don't park over
I
there,
mean, we
so.
did expand
I don't, yeah,
it,
it
right?
did
We
get
did expand
expanded
it.
off of the last bond, so we didn't make it big enough?
Have you
What we-
ever been in
No.
that time during
I-
that?
It's
crazy.
Here's.
I'm just
You
asking.
are right, I believe we did make it big enough. I'm
We
gonna-
did.
I'm gonna make that statement, but the reality is, the amount of people that pick up their kids and bring
Okay.
their kids to school is astounding to me when I see it. So if,
Okay, that's
It's
fine.
been-
I need to know
no, but
that. I'm just looking at what I marked.
I think it's a great question, because I think we did.
We did, it
Expand
is
it
bigger
pretty
than it
well.
was.
When we moved the road and took the parking lot,
Yeah.
we had the exact same numbers of parking lots, but just kept them closer to the building. And if you recall, in the last time, people said, well, you had all this grass, why don't you expand it? I believe they actually gave the podium. So at that point, we took the contingency money and expanded that parking lot to
To
the
the-
road,
to
so
the
the whole
road.
area. But
Right.
the original design, that parking lot was not supposed to be that big.
So we're still saying, though, at this point, that is still an issue, even with the expansion.
Parking,
I mean, I don't know
parking
what
on
Jack's
events, it's
Yes.
hard to
Yes.
park.
Okay, okay, just,
But you're also talking events, how often do you have events there?
But if if we are anticipating our numbers going up,
We're gonna
then
need more.
we're gonna need more because
We're gonna
more
need more.
parents are gonna
We're
drive
gonna be there.
their
And
kids.
to me, it's always that thing of, when you have an event, especially like that building, and the parking is such, crappy people happen, because trying to
No,
find a
you're right,
parking
yeah.
spot to get,
Yeah, you're
the
right.
thing starts at 6 and I get there at 1:45 and I'm driving around trying to find a spot. To me, it's an image thing in what we're providing, that we get some ample parking, that's what I look at. And they do park anywhere, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay. I just,
So
just asking.
I just want to phrase it, I'm not looking for you to get this 8 million. I'm just looking for you to tell me, are there things that you're like dying on, they're like, no, this isn't.
All the
for
priority
me."
twos at this point.
Okay, but is there anything in the priority one?
Well, that's what I was looking at
That you
on
could
my
say,
notes.
this is more of a wish or not necessarily needed? Because I'll put my team with Hawk and them, say, okay, let's find this, make sure what we're talking about, each one of these numbers, we know the
Let me make sure
exact
something's
scope.
not in priority two that I want to make sure it's not in there. Hold on.
That's what I was like, looking at my priority ones.
To me, I think your priority one stuff is pretty on point.
Well, okay, so I need to go back and just refresh. Okay, I'm looking at Lee School again. And we talked about kitchen equipment, relocate the walk-in freezer and the kitchen equipment walk-in cooler. Could we move that out because we said we possibly could get that from our,
The kitchen equipment, yeah, that could be moved to a new priority two,
okay,
because we're already buying equipment
through our
through our food
drawdown?
service. Yeah, through our drawdown.
Not much, guys, but,
The walk-in cooler, the 35,000
Yeah.
is needed. The elementary cooler is very small. We have a walk-in freezer, but we physically have to move it into the new kitchen. That's what that costs.
okay.
All right, this,
I think,
this weekly's, sorry, I'll wait, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, going to the priority two, removing all that, make them a wish list. So as we go along like we always do, if we do well, we can look, okay, then those wish lists then get prioritized. That's what I would say.
I have 2 questions. Okay, the first is, what is the likelihood we're actually gonna build up? Because we're only talking about building up at one school, which prepares that one school to have more kids, but it doesn't prepare the other two schools. So are we expecting the other two schools we're gonna be building on? Because if we're only having more kids, if we're only having the space to build up at the middle school, what happens to when all those kids get to the high school?
And also, we would only be able to build up on the new construction
Right.
side.
Right.
So
So it's not
it'd just be
easy.
one little square.
That
Yeah,
much.
and that is the
It is
problem,
part
right,
of, like-
at the Lee School. You
Yeah.
can't build up.
You're not. So it's, I mean, it's a $500,000. I don't know if it's that important that we
Move it up.
are going to be planning on building up, because is it a viable option for,
Given you have existing buildings that are already built.
correct?
Right.
Because you can fit more people at the middle school, great, but they have to have space at the high school also to go to.
Yeah,
So-
but the space at the high school is gonna have to come out.
We have the space for that right now to do that.
To a certain
To a
point,
certain,
yeah, to a
but
certain
you
point.
but you can also, right, the high school, you can build out and up when the time comes.
Right.
If you have
But
to.
this way, if we put it in place at the middle school now, not that it's easy, but it's easier, boom, you can just go up.
Yeah,
Where if you're doing an expansion again on the two, you're just going up here, high school, you're out and up.
Even if you
Feels
don't
odd.
make that addition going
Said
up,
that's a
an actual
priority too,
classroom,
isn't it?
you turn it into like the
Oh, that's a
admin
two.
offices.
Yeah, because I would take that, but no.
I would
And then
recommend,
you
if
can
we
use-
got to that point where you gotta take the admin, I would recommend by getting a storefront.
Yeah.
Rent a storefront, with the administration building a storefront.
Yeah.
And I say that loosely, kind of space-wide, and move the admin there off campus to a vacant real property,
Right.
and just rent it.
And I didn't realize that was a priority too. Sorry, I thought it was a priority. So, never mind, I guess that's on our wish list anyway.
Yeah, we gotta look at the
Sorry.
priorities.
So I have a question then about, because I want to go through, because I made the comment about moving all the priority twos out for
Yeah.
now. But I do have a question in regards to, this is the middle school, the replacing of the tile floor at the locker room. Which locker room is that? Is that all of them?
Those are the two, the boys and girls locker room and off the main gym.
That are right there in the gym area.
So what, okay.
The 246,000, no, the 95,000?
Yeah, it's only 95,000, yeah.
That's the tile.
Okay, because is there anything on here in regards to the little, it's like the locker room to that little gym? It's in the middle school, right?
Locker room, little gym?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't there?
No, aren't you thinking about the high school?
Oh, I was thinking, you're right, I'm sorry, yes, the high
Yes.
school.
That's in the high school, that is,
That's not a priority to them.
the high school is,
I don't think
I don't
that
know, I
was.
said middle school, I guess.
I didn't see anything.
mini gym locker room,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
priority
see,
one, about $600,000.
That's, I'm good with all of the priorities twos,
That's what
that
you're
I'm
thinking.
thinking priority
Okay, I have a
No, make a
question.
wish list.
threes. Yes, yeah.
I have a question on the middle school again. We have, in here, Brian, you have add the drive loop and lighting as a priority two.
Correct.
Okay, so could we then move the underground detention for that drive loop into two if we don't do it? Does that make sense? If we're not going to do it, if we're going to put it in the two, which is going to become our wish list,
Which line, which under new construction?
I'm under
site
new
work?
construction.
Construction.
So the second one says add drive loop and lighting,
Yeah.
1 million. Then if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it says underground detention drive
That
loop.
would move over.
So we could move that over.
Yes.
Okay.
But now this,
Only if, well, go on, I'm sorry, Sandy.
the lighting though down that path, where was that at? Was that, because that's.
Oh, that's
was
another
that the
one.
middle school or the high
I
school?
think that's what you-
That's in the middle school,
Yeah.
there at the bottom, it's 420,000. That's a priority two, not a
Okay.
priority.
I'm not sure, what's the big one, but I don't know that I like that priority too.
How much of a need is it?
It's a very dark path. I think it's actually like a hazard, but frankly, I think it's a liability.
No.
So,
That's a 2.
I would say as a resident, I'd want to know what type of lighting you're putting there, because I don't want that lighting shining right in my.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
right.
why I
As a
had that
resident, but you are right,
conversation of a
it
solar
is dark,
park.
And there are kids that do walk through that path in the morning, especially with the time change.
Yes.
It's dark at 7.
In the morning and some, yeah, and after their after-school events or whatever.
Yeah, just listen to them in the school.
Yeah, because it's closest to
Could,
the school.
I would like to see what it costs for solar, maybe, like.
I'm okay with exploring
I
other
would just be
options. I'm just saying,
curious,
I'm
just
not
to know
comfortable
where-
putting that on a wish list, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just wondering what the cost, if we did a different cost, what it would be if we put solar there. I don't know.
So Brian, for the
What's the
track,
upkeep? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what's the upkeep? Solar lighting,
Yeah,
more
I don't know.
upkeep than?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, so I guess that's why.
Yeah,
I would
so
like-
what's the long term?
Yes, yeah. I don't know, so
Trade-off
just a thought.
versus your
Right.
maintenance versus your actual
Yeah.
electrical cost.
I just, yeah, I feel like we could also, there's got to be a cheaper way to like that. Walkway, there has to be.
the track recoat, that's not anything that we already have been kind of budgeting or saving for? Like, I thought I remembered one of our line items being for
Not for
the.
the
No,
track.
football field, the turf
But
is not
for
the track.
around it.
No, we only set aside for buses and the turf, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the computers.
Buses,
Yeah,
turf,
buses,
computers,
computers, and
copiers,
Yeah.
servers. and- yeah, those
Okay.
five. What about the bleachers at the high
I
school?
was just gonna say, my question's about the
Yeah.
bleachers. What is
I
that
haven't hit
exactly
high school yet.
doing? Because I've got the,
Expanding home bleachers and away bleachers.
I think
do
so.
the away bleachers need to be expanded? Do we get that many people coming, or I don't know?
Depends on the event.
Genuinely
Yeah,
don't
it just
know.
depends on the event. I think the big thing that happens is when we are hosting events, when we host like a basketball tournament or a volleyball tournament, the numbers tend to be bigger there, but average, I would say.
No,
No.
This is outside, this is football
Oh,
field.
the outside, sorry. Okay, that is a good question. 'cause that was-
I think the home side needs some expansion,
I do too.
big time. I think the visitors are just fine.
We can easily adjust that number to be less seats, so I'll talk about the cost right now. So, is there anything else that's absolutely not a priority? It doesn't appear to be a need.
Visitors, speakers?
We don't need them to hear,
Is
right?
there enough?
I don't care about their seating, but I think the sound system, everywhere you go, if you sit on the visitor side,
You can hear.
you can hear it, you know, they've got, it may not be the best sound, but at least you can hear what's being said.
So I've
Isn't
never
that-
sat on our visitor side to know if you can't hear it,
That-
I
Well,
guess.
that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
I'm on the home side,
you
the
can't.
speakers are loud enough that it goes across the
Yeah,
field.
you would think it would be.
That's my thought.
I don't know, I don't know with the new system.
I don't
Originally, you
think
could
I don't
not.
think it's great.
Isn't that
No.
a 2 anyway?
It's a 2.
It's a
Not
2, so
priority.
don't worry
Not
about it.
happening, right?
I didn't
Or
Well, I
realize.
just didn't know if it
Make
was
it a
something
Wish
that
list,
pushed
put it
Yeah,
at the
wish
top of the wish
list.
list.
Wish
It's only
list.
30,000.
Okay, on the press box on the high school, did we feel like we could handle that?
Yeah, I can move those. If
So-
you want me to move all athletics out,
No,
No,
I don't think we need to
Not-
broad statement.
no.
no.
I think it shouldn't matter if it's,
This is mostly, I mean, this
It
is
is. I
mostly
mean, you look
expanding the
at
buildings.
this.
Right.
I mean, there's
There's
not.
minimal.
No, it's not
I think
mostly.
it
is
should-
what it is.
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter
Right.
if it's athletics or infrastructure, if it's needed,
That's correct.
then we
needed.
should be putting it on.
Yes,
And I'm not worried about if it leans one way or leans the other, they should be necessary things, or things that are gonna improve our district,
Yeah.
Correct.
my thoughts.
Do we, so can we, or would we be in agreement of the press box, Brian felt we could do that out of our budget, our own budget? Or no, or just leave
it
it?
would, yeah, it would just be up, fixing one-to-one. It's not,
We wouldn't be doing it all at one time. We would do the roof
Here in
one
the high
year.
school?
Okay, just a thought.
Is it falling apart, or how much
It's
does it
not-
need?
I don't think it's in the best shape. Do you think, Brian?
I don't know.
the one that needs to be big is the baseball.
The baseball one is the
Yeah.
one that needs it.
But
Needs it
you
the most.
watch your Title IX.
Yes, you do, then you have to do the
Right.
same thing
Baseball,
with the
you're having
softball.
Right.
Could we not refinish the high school gym floor or not put that in there yet? I'm just thinking, if we know it's good for another, I don't know. We need, I mean,
But
you said you had 2 more sandings that
Yeah.
you could do on it before
Yeah.
it needs to be.
That's
and
20
every
That's
how many
20 years.
10 years each, that's 20 years
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think that would be
yeah,
needed.
not that it's.
What about the high school bleachers?
Yes.
$250,000.
I don't think it's needed, that's my
These are the
opinion.
inside ones? No.
I,
Are they, what's wrong?
I think that it is,
Is it?
I think that it is needed.
I know the band now sits in it, right? So we don't have Joe.
It's not seating,
No.
it's the
It's the
condition of
condition.
the bleachers. They come out, sometimes they don't, it's the condition of the bleachers.
Are we
And
talking,
it's
this is bleachers in the gym, or is this bleachers out?
245
Bleachers
bleachers in
in
the
the
gym,
gym.
1,200 seats.
Got it.
That's an indoor.
Oh, got it.
Well, how old are they?
96.
Oh,
96.
those are old. I was thinking outside, sorry, guys.
No, now we're inside the building.
Yeah.
I guess I've never noticed.
And now we finally have where we've got the railings all.
Figured back out
bolted in,
again.
You know, but the newer, the 30 years later version, if you go to schools there, the bleachers come out better, the whole
Okay.
railing part, all of
Okay.
that.
Yeah, the stepping system
The
for
step-
older people.
Absolutely.
Again, this is a liability issue for me.
It's a huge liability.
I'm an insurance person.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on that part of it? And then Brian will come back and we will make final
We'll
cuts.
get the number closer to
Okay,
500 and then, because our next step is working with them so we know when it says it, what all that entails, all the details. We've had them, but just to make sure we're all on the same page from the architect to the construction and to the district.
okay. Next item on our agenda is our fiscal year 2026 budget discussion.
So I wish I could say that we have newer information from the state and from the governor and house, but I don't. So this is the sheet that you received, we talked about last time. It shows the governor's budget, the impact. We talked about flat enrollment, keeping it flat enrollment, and the impact. So we're ranging anywhere from $609 to $650,000 of additional revenue. And then we began costing out contracts. The 3 that are unsettled are paras, education, and secretaries. So part of that cost is, it is making some assumptions on contract settlements to build in. I can't say that's the contract settlement, because for 2 of the groups, we haven't even started negotiating. As far as staffing, this has the 5 paras not in the 5 kindergarten paras, or with the position that's being subbed. The dispatcher, her last day is tomorrow. I'm gonna have to work with Susie to figure out a plan. This would reduce the dispatcher, so when she's out, who's covering, whether it's a bus driver that we call up to cover the office, and then we have a sub-bus driver drive for them. Roughly the savings between the 2 retirees that we've got and bringing someone in, not necessarily in a range, like a 1 to 5-ish step range, depending on their experience, et cetera, yields us about an $80,000 savings. Again, some of that's, I don't know, insurance costs, what they're gonna have, et cetera. So this is just a summary. Tonight, what I want to talk to you guys about is the impact of grants. And so that's the sheet that you have in front of you. So I'm going to start with the easiest of the 3, which is the one at the top that says Title I. On your sheet, you're going to see carryover allocation, and just kind of summarizing, when we have a grant and we don't spend it all, we're allowed to carry over a certain portion, or if not all of it. Some grants we carry over all of it. So depending on if we were able to staff everybody in the grant, if we had a para position posted and weren't able to fill it, that's going to affect how much carryover you have at the end of the year, because all those expenses weren't encumbered in that year. But in 2021-22, our allocation was $208,000. We took a 7.8% decrease the following year. Our allocation dropped to $193,000. The following year, we had another 11.81% decrease to drop to $170,000 our allocation. And then the following year, this current year, we had another almost 15% decrease in our Title I allocation. The pattern's holding that it's slowly decreasing. Currently, we pay part of Mrs. Walter's salary out of there. We have a homeless liaison set aside. We have an allocation by law that we allocate to the private and non-public schools. And then our indirect cost, which is, it's a formula that they allow us to charge part of grant dollars to offset your business expenses to help for the duties that they have for the grant. So we pretty much allocated $163,000. I don't anticipate, unless the nonprofits and public schools and are homeless, we don't spend that full amount, which could happen. It just becomes carryover, and then there's a reallocation for their allocation next year. Given that, and we use part of this year, we use carryover from last year to help cover all the costs. You can see if we keep a teacher in that position, we're only talking that we can budget $114,000, assuming the other costs are the same. That's an open position, so that's the conversation we're having right now, and it'll have to get posted to see if there's any current staff that are interested or any staff. Now, if we hire nobody wants it, we hire a new teacher, your costs are going to come down because the new teacher's total cost is not that high. Generally, though, you want someone in this position with kind of the tools and tricks of the trade, so they have the experience of how to deal with kids that are struggling. You don't typically give this position to a brand new teacher. So right now, this doesn't impact staffing, other than who's there. So this is the easy one. So I don't really need any direction from you guys on this one. I'm going to go to 31A. 31AA.
AA is next.
AA. The top part, you'll see we had $96,000 in carryover, and our allocation this year was $176,000. 31AA used to be two grants. It used to be a mental health and a school safety. They combined it into one grant and gave us, it's based on how many kids you have in the district, your per pupil allocation, right? So currently, we pay the building security monitors out of it, which is this year, which totals to about $100,000, a little over $100,000. We pay an allocation to the police liaison officer. We pay an allocation for part of a teacher's day, and that's not salary up there, that's total cost. That's like a retirement, healthcare, that's total cost. We pay a 1.0 total cost for a social worker. We paid part of a Positive U out of it for middle school. The E-Hall pass at the high school. CARE of Southeast Michigan, our student side as well as our staff side. That's our employee assistance program. We had miscellaneous supplies. Majority of that, if not all of that, was used to put our reunification kits together this year for each building. We did that.
So,
And then,
can I ask, so then does that mean that was a one-time
yeah, and that's where
doing it?
that's where I'm going to come down to the
Okay.
next part. And then typically what we do is once you put all the salaries in there and the stuff that you know, it never comes out to be your exact allocation. So that $6,000 is generally put in a supply. It's kind of a flexible number to use. So we balanced the books on that one. That's what we projected to spend, and that's our revenue. So we're not expected to have carryover this year. Again, there may be because we don't spend all the supplies, but we're not. assuming we get the same allocation, flat enrollment, same allocation, this is where we come up with, and this is how we believe we can make this balance. Because now we're starting to talk to staff. You've got your building monitors. If you wanted to keep this existing, we could look at this also expand it to be 4-hour blocks and only do 3 people, and so forth. But keeping them, part of the reason why we did this was to give them hours, get them insurance, to keep bus drivers, because we were having that turnover in bus drivers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's keep in mind, this is what.
These are-
Yes.
Making us competitive with bus driver situation. Yes.
On the flip side, they don't have the background training in security. Though we've trained them and we work with them, and we give them kind of, here's what you do, these are the doors you check, to make sure this is the protocol, but there's a difference between a liaison officer or someone you contract, so.
Yeah, but I don't know that they need to have experience in security to check that doors are locked and things like that.
I'm just saying.
But yes.
The student advocate positions, these were added, that we would not put those on the schedules. It doesn't mean those people are not going to have full schedule, because we're still in that scheduling process, but we're taking that out of the grant. You're going to see the social worker be a 0.5, but I'm going to show you where the other 0.5, so instead of 1 grant, we're splitting it between 2. We still have that full time. Positive U, E-Haul pass, we'd have to either look at if we're going to continue it or another source to pay for those. The care, I have not gotten any adjustments, so I just used the same numbers as I did last year. And then zeroing out those 2 supplies. By doing it this way, we basically have allocated the grant. In this particular model, right now I've not officially laid off anybody or reduced anybody's schedule, other than this here, Brandon and Michelle, we're going to move towards, this is all general fund, but general fund non-grant dollars, there's going to be a cost increase there. So we look at that money left and spend, that would go on that side of the equation, if you will.
So then, the student advocate position would stay, it's just not going to come out of general fund dollars.
Not necessarily, because we got to look at what the schedule said. If there's no spot in their schedule,
Then we won't
we wouldn't have it.
Okay, but,
They would be teaching something, is that a question or no?
yeah, I get that, but my question is, what was the whole point of starting the student advocate in the first place if we're only going to do it for a year, and now that the funds are going, it's going to go?
Well, that's with any grant, though. If the funds are there, I would be saying we run the funds like we've
Sure.
done year after year.
Sure, but I'm just asking, so that program came about because we were, because there was grant money. So since it's going away, then we're not interested in that program. I don't know if
No.
I can ask.
So is it like a
The
pilot
program-
program?
no.
I don't know what the
No.
program is.
No.
Can I ask what it is?
The program came
Yeah, I don't know
because
what it is.
the middle school came to us with a positive and wanted to implement it. The reality is we had 2 people scheduled that we couldn't fill.
Correct.
So the reality is that we could use grant dollars and give them part of their day to help support the program. That's kind of how those 2 individuals
It's kind of working,
got there.
making sure they're doing.
They have
okay.
a caseload of kids that they see, and they rotate them to make sure, they check up on them. They're probably,
These are at-risk kids?
they could be at risk, maybe, from a, no, I would say they're all at risk. It would be some that are on the radar. We might have kids who have attendance issues,
Yeah.
and they're following up to try to make sure they're getting to school. They might have kids that, I'm not turning my homework in math class, but I'm doing all the other, what's going on there, so every week they call.
Too, we'd get creative, it's not like we say, oh, well, that caseload of kids, now no one's checking on them ever again, right? Like, okay, what can we do with the social worker, what can we do
Well, I
with the
was
counselor?
gonna say that.
Is it, do you have kind of a home-based teacher, and every second-hour teacher kind of has a few kids, kind of leaning into that silent mentoring, so I think we just get creative to make sure that we could still provide those same levels of support.
That's all I wanted you to say.
Well,
Yeah.
what about, so do we know, how much was the Positive Youth program? Because that's like, you're totally getting rid of that.
Yep.
9,800.
It was? Why did I miss that?
It's at the top.
It's on the top of the
It was on
first page.
one.
The top of the top of is current, and the bottom is looking at the
On
grant.
the first page.
Okay.
Well, because.
I would not want
Yeah,
to, I wouldn't want to get rid of that.
See, that,
I don't
that's,
either.
so that's my question with Brian, so I get the grant money's not coming back, so then, but we could say, if we want to still have Positive View, we just move it over to general fund, or is there, I mean, grant stuff's kind of going crazy, right?
You could move it over to general fund. The amount you have available in general fund is getting smaller.
Correct.
And we have 3 contracts that haven't been settled yet.
Correct, yeah.
So yes, but
Yeah.
yes, you would move that expense to a general fund non-grant account. All of this is a general fund, as you know, but it would just be
Yes,
out of
yes.
the grant.
I
So that
think-
would kind of make it like a priority too, that we could fill that in a general fund. If after we settle the other agreements, that would be, okay, kind of a wish list if we can, is that how that works? I mean,
Well,
the option.
you were asking Margaret Telto's opinion. I don't think it's a priority too. I think it's a priority because of what the program has been this year. So I would not agree with, we have those contracts that we need to settle. I would think we would want to figure out a way
How can we pay
to
this?
have it as opposed to waiting for contracts to settle.
I would- yeah.
That's just where I'm coming from.
Sure.
Yeah, I would almost,
Sure, okay.
quite frankly, I mean, even with what you got going on here, I don't know, I'll almost, you'd have one less monitor, and then you can have your Positive View program.
I'm all,
Is that 2 in a building? Is that what, Brian? Is
Yeah,
that
Basically,
2 in
it
a
works
building?
out, well, they're an AM and a PM show.
Got
So
it.
one works from 8:30 till, I'm gonna say 11, I don't know off the top of my head. And then one works 11 to 2.
45 or
Whatever,
And
and
then
then
the
the
leads
bus.
go get the buses.
so I have a couple questions or thoughts. I feel like grants are always unknown, year to year, and everyone who takes that position
Yep.
understands that. That being said, if we don't have, I mean, you're gonna have to pick and choose. If the money isn't there, we can only keep taking from general fund so much. You're gonna have to then, if we wanna keep this, we're gonna have to cut something else that we're taking out of general fund, in my opinion. My thought though, student advocate, I love the idea of it, but counselor, social worker, dean of students, those are the people in my mind that would be checking in on kids, checking with their absences, checking with their homework, seeing if they're okay.
Well,
I feel like-
In a,
Perfect world.
I don't even know if that's the right word, but I don't know that that's necessarily true.
I don't want to say
But-
what else are they doing, because I know everyone's doing something, but you can't tell me they don't have some time in their day to check in. I don't,
But,
I would never play do that.
okay, but the idea behind doing that, like Brian said, was the 2 individuals didn't have a full schedule. So this is, we created this to give them a full schedule. So moving them away to do something. But I just think if this has been an important part, you know, how, because, Brian, weren't we gonna get like some kind of idea of how it went at the end of the year, some kind of?
they did a, yeah,
Yeah, they
they did a
did.
presentation.
No, not the student advocate. It's not the same thing. Am I
Well,
right?
Brandon's position
Yeah.
is part of the
Brandon
positive.
Yes.
did.
Michelle's is not, because they don't do a positive view at the high school.
But Mr. Day
Michelle-
was here, and he's part of that, yeah, he was
Right.
part of that Positive View
And he
presentation.
did give it the presentation.
But there's results is what I'm saying.
I
When you're
agree.
having, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So if you see the results and that it has been successful,
Yeah,
then figure out a way to keep it. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, no, that's
with
exactly
that.
why I'm saying I want to.
What's our admin over there
Exactly, I
say?
agree.
What does the administration?
Well, I think they're gonna want positive view.
Yeah,
I
The
think
issue is, it's a balloon, we're squeezing the balloon.
yeah.
If you're gonna keep it, you gotta take something away to pay it,
Right.
or use more of fund balance to pay it.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if we, like what Sandy said, if you get creative, maybe take out a security monitor, put in, because, and I still have questions about what they really do in their day, because I don't, that's new since I've been back on board. I don't know what a security monitor is, other than check locked doors. That's one thing I've heard so far. But maybe if we did take one of those out, we can pay for Positive View. I think it sounded like a great program. I'm all for that. I mean, I don't know that we couldn't fit the student advocate duties in other roles.
I agree
And then
with that.
maybe we find different places for these 2 student advocates to fill their day.
Yeah.
Now that we
If
have
we
more
need to.
openings and stuff, I don't want to see anybody lose part of their day. We would just have to find different places for them and kind of fill gaps that we have. But I don't know that those roles, it sounds like we made those roles
Because
to
of their
kind of
schedule.
fill their gap, not because the social worker, the counselor, the dean of students couldn't do those things. And if we're looking at reallocating funds because we don't have enough, that would be something I would go back to the drawing board on.
We filled the gap because that program was coming into place, so in order to help it work better, if you will, that's where that came about.
And in a perfect world, if we had all the funds, great, I'm glad it worked out this year, but if we're trying to save some money, I think there might be other more creative ways with the people we have on hand, like the counselor, the social worker, the dean of students.
And we don't know at this point, they may have a full schedule, correct?
In the preliminary runs of the schedule, we
Yeah.
haven't finalized. We have a net loss in FTEs at the high school, but a net gain in the middle school, which is 0. So like, for instance, our computer teacher only wants to be part-time. He was originally hired with only wanting to be part-time, but when Kathy Campo left, he said I would fill in and take the full-time position. So if I take a part of his schedule out, I'm reducing the FTEs at the high school. But then currently, the middle school, every teacher at the middle school has a full schedule. Nobody has a part schedule. So in this case, unless there's someone going to do it on their prep hour, nobody would be picking up the advocate in the middle school. You got to remember, the middle school, you've got a small group of 8th graders leaving. And now all of your grade levels are about 120 kids. So there's a couple extra sections we need to fill the vacancy of the 8th grade. So that's why you got the plus in the FT. So as a net, right now, we're neutral. Less in the high school, more in the middle school. Right now, Michelle Maples, I believe, has a full schedule based on student requests. As with all that, we look at student requests, okay, how low do we go? We've run classes very low in the past.
But we can run this program without those individuals if we had to.
The Positive Youth Program has nothing to do with those
Right.
individuals. They were strictly
Right, that's what.
budgeted
Yes.
to get a full schedule, because it's hard to keep. And I want to make sure I'm saying this, and I'll pick on Brandon. That doesn't mean Brandon had a part-time schedule, he's going to get the part-time schedule. There's someone down the chain that would have gotten the part-time schedule, not Brandon.
We did, and I don't know, one of the items, I think it's on our next sheet, but so to speak to the Positive You, at the past PE day, they did train the entire staff on some pieces, so that capacity, the attempt is to build that capacity, so it's not resting on one person. But again, we have that, and then we look at the budget, and, so it's always a work in progress, but that is the thought, is that that's really building out versus being something Brandon Day does.
Okay,
So the Positive View is a priority.
For me, it is.
I agree.
I'm not opposed to it.
So can I just, is this a good time, what else do the security monitors do? 'Cause I don't know.
Oh, let's see, it depends on the building. Sometimes they're taking sick kids from point A to point B at the elementary school, or bringing them to the classroom. Sometimes we have kids that, they're out in high school, they're outside of certain bathrooms that have problems with kids during break. High school, they're making sure that kids have passes to be out of classes, which has significantly reduced the number of kids wandering through high school.
Like hall monitors.
Hall
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Basically hall monitors.
They have a checklist that they go through to make sure you pull all the doors, to make sure that, someone left and it didn't close right, so between classes, they double check that.
I see there's 6 here, so is that 2 per school then?
Yes, there's an AM person and a PM person, so that they have basically 6.5 hours a day.
But I want to make it clear to the new board
Yes.
members here that we put these positions in play to be more
Keep-
competitive, to keep bus drivers.
bus drivers.
Because
So
there was
these are
such
all
a
bus
shortage
drivers.
of bus drivers.
Got
So
it.
it gives them a full
It gives
day
them a
of
full
sports
day rather
schedule.
than Yes.
Have they qualified for
Those
it?
are-
Yes.
They're all
Okay,
single,
yes.
they're all getting single?
So they're
Coverage
familiar
insurance.
with the kids, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
that's the main reason why we did it, so that we could keep bus drivers, because there was a shortage and we were having a hard time getting them,
Okay.
so.
We were training and then some of them left after our training because they just weren't going to get their hours.
Or benefits.
Right.
How do other school districts give them hours?
They have two-tier bus systems, so they have the hours and the healthcare.
And we did kind of explore that as well, and that's just way too, it's just not, it
Yeah.
didn't seem like it was gonna be feasible.
Okay.
It's more than $100,000.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
All right, so the walkway on this one is we're adjusting, but we can make this budget work. The next one becomes a little more challenging, 31A. At the top of the sheet, we carried over 230,000. We had an allocation of 641,000. And you can see this is where we spent dollars on Progress Learning, Ames Web, and I can go into detail if you want, but advanced placement testing for those that take AP classes, we pay for the test. The NSMQT, which is the fall test we give to 11th graders to see how they're going to do. We've had to pay for AP training for teachers who are new to an AP course and the compensation that goes with that. Here's the Positive U staff development. So it's not just in 31A, it's also in 31A. Once after COVID, we began trying to get kids caught up on credits. So if they took credit recovery during the year, we paid for that. We paid for our 31A. Our consultant from the ISD, EL consultant, we have part of their instructional coaches are paid out of 31A, the other part is paid out of general fund. Kagan books that we did for the past weekend that we did last summer. We had some one-time expenses, like there was a book cart that did not get purchased for that 5th, 2nd grade for whatever reason, so we got that paid for. IXL, which is the progress monitoring, it's a tool that they also use. This Savvis, we bought the leveled readers for the classroom. A little bit was paid out of 31A, most of it was paid out of the literacy grant we got, which is expended this year.
So in the IXL, in the first block there, it says the total cost is 18.8, but then in the expenses is 15.6.
So the difference was paid out of another grant,
Okay.
or general fund, the non-grant
It was
general
the same
fund.
literacy grant as the Savvis.
We have, part of Autumn Walter's salary was paid out of 31A. It's not enough could be paid out of Title I, so we had to pay for a portion out of 31A. The 4 paras that we started the year with were paid out of 31A. When we started it, when I showed you that title grant, we used to pay these out of title. As that went down, we shifted them to this grant. One of the paras left us, so we just didn't replace that para. That's why there's a cost discrepancy. In the middle school, we have the support classes for math, the ACRI classes, which is the language arts realm of support. And then we had, Autumn used to, part of her day was at the middle school, part of her day was at the high school. We moved her all to the, or elementary, excuse me. We moved her all to the elementary school. Miss Lynn, Aaron picked up 3 sections. Again, we hired her because we needed a part-time ELA teachers to fill her schedule. We gave the title or at-risk part of her day. Normally that would have only been 2, but this year we had to do 3 to create a full-time schedule. There's a sub-cost when those teachers are absent for that hour that's charged there. At the high school, we have Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 supports, which was put in 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And then English 9 and 10 supports. We have an SAT math class, so those hours are paid out of 31A. Part of our current social workers are paid out of 31A. The rest are non-grant general fund dollars. So basically 4/7 of a day is out of grant, and the 3/7 is on a 7-period day. It's paid out of general fund. The on-demand practice tutoring costs us $11,000, almost $12,000 a year. And then the accelerated reader software, and for K-8, and then the supplies to the incentivize gets us to that $872,000. We don't anticipate any carryover. Assuming we have the same allocation, if you remember at the last board meeting, I said that formula and those documents show that we technically should get 6,000 less based on the formula. But in this one, I assume that we're 641,000. Going away from progress learning and aims and just doing the IXL as one system.
So, yeah, with
And
IXL
our-
and SAVIS, they now cover the things we were doing with progress learning and aims. They're built into those, so we'll just adjust and it'll be a savings for us.
This is still putting that we're paying for the AP testing for those students that choose to take AP classes. This is the 11th grade testing still there. We know of at least one teacher who's going to need AP training for this summer, and then the cost. This is based on last year where there was a couple, so it might not be that high. And we could get a retirement. We got to send another teacher. That's the unknown.
Oh, you got to do the training for a teacher.
Just when they're newly starting.
So it's a one-time thing? Okay.
Correct.
You'll see on here, some of it's zeroed out, positive view, the credit recovery. We're going to go back to pre-COVID. Kids who need to retake an Algebra 2 class, rather than keep a full schedule and then have the credit recovery Algebra 2, we got to put them into the schedule of Algebra 2. We have the EL requirement that we have to support for our EL learners. This has the instructional coaches part of their day. It zeroes out Kagan, zeroes out that book card. There's the IXL, between IXL and SAVIS, as Billy said. This would eliminate all Title I support paras, keeping the intervention classes with only 2 at risk here. Currently, the first, or whatever round we're on in the scheduling, currently she only has 2 built into her schedule. She has another class picked up. So I only have really 2 spots that I could offer. Keeping the supports at the high school, keeping the supports at the social workers. Here's the moving Darby Smith, half of her, if you remember, half was out of 31A, half would be out of 31A. Eliminating the practice on demand and the supplies for accelerated reader. You can see we're still $102,000 over budget for 31A. Now, if what was put in the press actually happened, we should have a 4% increase in our 31A allocation. But the reality is that's not what's happening. So I'm just placing right now, because I know we're going to have not all these expenses in this year. The supply, we might have 3,000 carryover. We might have some that didn't come to fruition. Most of the people are they're spot on. So unless they're absent and they're taking unpaid leaves, which none of them are, I don't think we're going to be that far off on a lot of this.
Can I ask you about the practice on demand tutoring
Yeah.
thing? I know we have that zeroed out here. I thought, and I don't know if this is still true or not, but I thought that the National Honor Society, they offered like tutoring to, do they still do that?
She puts out a list that they have done it.
Okay, all right.
I don't know how many people take advantage of it. That I
Yeah.
don't.
And we could bring the numbers for the practice on demand, it's not real.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, do you know what the numbers
For
was?
that
That was one of my questions.
Right, you gave us some information about that a little bit ago, didn't you?
Yeah, we could
About how
we could easily put together, because every month we get a report that says how many kids signed up, or kids
Yeah.
or parents, how many actually showed up,
Right.
and how many, what
That's
services.
what I'm curious of, I guess.
It's not, it's,
Very-
it's,
Okay. All
if
right,
it's 10 a month, that's a lot.
okay.
Can I ask a question about the support at the elementary school?
Yeah.
So taking that out, are we taking that out because it isn't needed, or are we taking that out
No.
because we can't
No,
fund it?
I'm not saying it's not needed.
Okay,
That's not.
so how many kids is that supporting right now?
Is that, I didn't hear the second.
How many kids does it support? How many kids utilize that?
Well, generally, they target their bottom 30 in a building, So if there's roughly 500 kids, we're talking 150 kids that are probably targeted, there's probably 30 to 40 at grade level that they're targeting.
So who will work with
And
those
that-
kids?
This was my second question.
Sure, yeah. But,
Heidi and I talked about this today. I mean, we still, you know, with the concept of still having a teacher in the spot, right, they would still have their teacher, but it would just be, you know, that teacher would be able to do less in the time.
Yeah.
Because she would be able to, okay, do the instruction and this group is with the parent, you know, it would,
Sure.
so it would be similar but less, right? I mean,
so I'm going to throw out a crazy thing, and it might be the unpopular thing, but I don't care. I know we saw a presentation on the instructional coaches in the last meeting, and I love that idea. I really do. I think it's great for the new teachers coming into the field. I think it's amazing that those teachers are getting support, because hopefully it will, retention, right, will keep teachers, and I'm all for that. But if I had to choose between taking that down to one and helping, maybe less, still helping the teachers that need it, but maybe they go on a list and they just have to get on the list, and maybe we do focus on the teachers that are brand new versus teachers that have been here, whatever, maybe there's some stuff we look at. I would rather the kids be getting that support.
So let me play this out.
Yeah,
If you cut an FTE, one person,
Mhm.
we have one paid out of general fund,
Okay.
non-grant, and one FTE paid out of grant. That's how we get the two people. So kind of half, 65.65 out of grant, 0.35 out of general fund.
okay,
So let's- for the sake of being the easy of the conversation, we'll keep the one in general.
Yeah.
And we cut the grant one.
yeah.
If you cut the grant one, you basically balance the budget, and you still don't have the parapros back in the budget.
And I don't want to cut both, but if you cut both, then we're probably flat.
If you cut the paras and you cut one
No, I'm
FTE.
saying,
No,
if you cut both instructional coaches. Again, I
That's what I'm
love the
saying.
program.
That's what I'm saying, if you look, you're talking, well, so then you're gonna put the paras in the general fund non-grant costs.
I'm saying if we put the paras back in here and
You
we
don't have
didn't
enough
have the
money.
instructional coaches.
because only half the coaches are paid.
Only half the coaches is paid out of here, the other half is
Okay,
paid
it's
out of
out of
another
general.
fund. So if I cut the one out of here,
Yeah,
that equates to.
the
where are
93
they?
or 97.
Where is it?
So this is a good chunk of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking 190,000,
Yeah.
but then I need to move more, I gotta increase the general fund, because they're only 0.35, and 0.35 is on the general fund. So a third of that's gotta increase on that, but let's assume I cut 190. That gives me 88,000 to work with. So you could put some of the paras back in here.
I just feel like,
But your positive view, and now the difference in the instructional coaches is now eating away that general fund. And I say that in respect, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's what we have to work with.
so not having instructional coaches increases our general fund dollars? I mean, it increases what we have to spend?
If you're saying get rid of both instructional coaches.
If we had it.
Then you're gonna save out of the grant,
Yeah.
190, and out of general fund, you're gonna save the difference. So, the total, the two total costs is 290, 295?
Because that's.
Let's just say 290, you're gonna save 100,000 out of the general fund.
Is that their whole job? This is their whole day?
Their whole day, all week.
I feel like it's a luxury. I would love to keep at least one, I would. I just, again, if our funds are lower, some things have to go. And I wouldn't take it from the elementary school kids who need support and put it on the teachers. I just wouldn't.
How do you look at it as a luxury?
I think it's great to have, but I think the principals could be sitting in on classes and watching teachers and giving feedback. Now, can they spend their whole day? No. But don't they sit in on the new teachers when they're teaching?
Well, you're
and
talking
give
about
feedback?
evaluating.
Well, sure, but couldn't they be mentors also?
Evaluating and the work that has been done with the instructional coaches and the teaching staff
Yeah.
is monumental.
But do you think it's more monumental than the paras working with the
I
kids?
think it's as monumental.
Well, if you have to pick, then
Well-
you have to pick.
But, okay, but if I have to pick,
Mm-hmm.
if I keep the instructional coaches and what they are doing throughout the whole teaching staff, could assist the fact that the parapro stuff goes.
I just feel like, and I know I've said it before, I might be a broken record, but I feel like those kids who need that extra help already take so much time away from the teachers. I think the parapros help offset that. They also have to have time to work with the kids who are achieving or higher. They can't spend all of their time. Those paras, I think, take a lot off of the teachers in a good way. I just don't, in my opinion, I don't know that we should just cut it from the elementary school. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying it has to be the instructional coaches, but
No,
find
my
the money
question was
somewhere
just,
else.
why do you think it's a luxury? That was what the question
Because
was.
I feel like it is.
So-
I just do.
Can I
I
ask
love
a-
the idea, but
Can
it's
I ask the question this way? Pick any company out there. And if you had 30% of your employees who were new, what support do companies give those new employees to make sure they're successful for the overall mission of the company? In education, the only way we do it is through professional development and models like this. I can't say, let's shut down school, other than on PD Day, and say, I'm gonna send you all to a conference, because I got these costs and all that. We just don't operate that way. And that's part of the conversation we've had with changing our calendar, in building that time in, so that our teachers can work together. The reality is we have 30% of our staff right now who are less than 5 years into the teaching profession. Of that 30, I'm going by my memory, so I could be off a little, 6 of them are #teach, who have no training in teacher education courses. Don't get me wrong, they're good, I'm not saying that they're bad, but they need support. We could say principals could do it, we could say, this is an internal battle Billy and I have had, because I was there with you from the perspective of, that's an easy cut. But what the pushback I get is, how are we going to support? If we don't have people helping our teachers, it's gonna affect the learning in our classroom.
That's the whole point.
But I don't think it should be at the, like,
So let me
expense
ask
of
this,
taking out the
let me
support
ask you
of the
this
kids.
question
I
now.
don't.
Who's better to put in front of the kids? The person that has the most experience, the most training, or the person who can, you go to the doctor, you go see the doctor, not necessarily the nurse. Okay? And I'm not saying our paras are bad, because we have some very good, dedicated paras, but they haven't been trained in a lot, so they're just using what they've learned over time. And please don't take that they're bad people, or they're not doing a good job, because they are. That's not my intent. But if I can put an instructional person who's got the tricks in the background, to me, that's a...
But do they have the time to go to every kid and figure out where their deficits are?
It was my understanding when they came in with their presentation that they're there to more assist the teachers with developing specific techniques to kind of reach additional students. Like if they're having a problem with how to present something, the additional professionals would be like, well, here's another option of how you can do a different method of instruction. That was my interpretation of that. Sarah, I definitely agree with you. I think the paraprofessionals would be a priority over the other option. Not that the other one's a bad option. It's good, but I think paraprofessionals would be more strategic in that. And
How are they more strategic?
well, because they're there all the time, right?
The argument that the parapro spot is more strategic, what is that argument? As opposed to the teacher and the training and all the work that is done through the literacy coaching? How is the parapro more strategic? I don't understand that.
But maybe strategic isn't the word I'm looking for, but I think they're more consistent. Maybe that's where.
I think that's a bad, because when you say that, then the teachers, the literacy coaches, all the work that is being done, that's not consistent?
You mean they're always there? They're
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
consistently with the children.
So is the
versus-
teacher.
Well, yeah,
I think
I'm
it's
not, I'm not going against the teacher at all. That's not what I'm saying. So
I know, but the whole literacy coaching, the whole program is all about the teaching and the better education of our students. Listen, I would like us to be able to figure out a way that the parapro spots stay, that we figure out something.
Something else.
I think both areas are extremely important. But I think that the instructional coach, the whole teaching, everything that we've been doing is critical and has been critical in the last couple of years on the progress, the processes that we've done. Just my opinion. I've been saying quiet because
I am too, but
I'm very.
I'll be behind you though.
Okay, sorry, I'm very torn with this because this is tough. This is one of the tough things you gotta do. And I understand and agree both sides of this coin, I guess, and so that makes it tough. So I wonder if we could we split it then? Like splitting, I feel like, you know what I mean, like then just doing away with one, and I understand what you're saying, that that's not really much of a savings, but it might be able to give us a couple of parapros instead of maybe, all of them. Like
No,
maybe
you
we
just
split
said
it.
no. That's not.
Yeah, because it's not going to
Well,
happen.
Yeah, it is.
if I cut one right now,
Yeah.
just again, because they're like the 0.6, 0.65,
Yeah,
let's
right.
assume that's 0.5, 0.5, and the other is out of general fund, non-grant.
Right,
If I cut one of those, so I have 1.5 parapros, one of those is gonna get us close to zeroing this out. I still
Right.
didn't put the other people back.
yes.
If I cut the other half, so I truly only have one, you could put some of those, because now I have two of these gone.
Right,
I could put some of those paras, and I'm going up and up,
yeah,
back in. I
Back
may
in,
not be able to put
right.
three, but
Right.
I could put some of them in.
right.
Okay.
In a perfect, sorry, you go ahead, you were.
No, that's okay. Okay, so first off, the instructional coaches. You talk about administrators, they could do it. What happens, and you're talking to an administrator here, I could not give the consistency and the follow-through and the daily piece that our instructional coaches can do. Because you have emergencies, you have parents come in, you have this, you have that. That spot as a principal or our dean of students, you can never set a solid time because you have so many pieces in the day that you have. There are days that you can set an agenda, this is what I want to accomplish, and it doesn't happen. So it's very hard to provide that consistency. I agree with some of the comments that have been said there. What we have been doing with them only strengthens our teachers.
Sure.
And if they are not strengthened, then teaching is not going on in that classroom. And what we're teaching them is that relationship building. We're teaching them instructional strategies so that in our at-risk room, there may be strategies that can help if we don't. Now, I'm with Sandy, I'm torn between both, so I say, okay, can we look at something else? Is there something else we can move out or take out that we wouldn't have to get rid of either one? I believe the instructional coach is very important, and that comes from my administrative experience. But I also believe that the paras are important too. So can we look at anything
all
else?
of this
Is there
stuff is
some?
All of it is
I know,
important.
but
Those
those
are
two,
Agreed.
can we look at something else?
Brian,
I don't know.
in terms of the social workers, is there any other new grants out there that
We could
maybe
get.
are being offered for that?
I don't know about for social workers, for some of the things like a positive view, for some of those where it's a small, like those are the type of things I could begin to explore some grants. The social
Nothing
worker
big.
ones are a little trickier to actually, like a person, like if you're paying for a person, that is the trickiest thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I, to get a
Your
grant for a
programs.
program and we know how much the program, like that's a doable, I mean, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but that's something I could explore for a person. It's
Like
a lot.
accelerated reader K-8.
Right.
Could we possibly maybe look for a grant on that?
Yeah.
Could we possibly look for a grant on, what was the other one you just mentioned?
Positive U.
The positive
or some of
U.
those kind of things. Those
Where
are,
maybe we,
that's
but we're
something-
still not,
Yeah. that's
we're
not
still
even
short
close.
though.
Yeah,
It's not even close.
Yeah.
and it sucks to have to make these decisions. I just
Yeah,
would
we have
like to
make a
see.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to make one, and I'm not against the instructional coaches at all. Don't, if anyone got that, don't think that I am. I'm not. It's just, we have to choose. And I'd like to see some support with the elementary school kids. However, we have to make that happen.
So let me ask you this. I started this chart with you guys at the beginning on a sheet that we, the pluses and minuses column on the. So if the idea is that one full instructional coach was in this budget, general fund non-grant, and the at-risk was in the other one, paras, and we're basically taking the instructional coach out of a grant. We could do that and run those numbers, because we just, like I said, we have we've got the pluses and minuses of scheduling.
Then let's see that.
I'm just gonna say, let's see what that will do us. There's gotta be another way. We just have to find
We just
it.
have to find
What's killing us, and it's probably a very harsh word, is not getting a per pupil allocation this year.
Yes.
Right.
That's
Yes.
killing us, because
Yes.
that was one-time money that now we lose, and now they're gonna give it. Well, you have all your cost increases, and now we're playing catch-up.
Yep.
That's what's killing
Yep.
us. And not,
Thank you.
I'll get on my platform. They're paying for this roads, they're paying for it because in the back of the school aid budget, they took all those line items out, and they're paying for the roads through the school aid fund.
Backs of public education.
That's the problem, and they'll celebrate it, even their own representatives say, we solved the problem, we've got the money, we don't have to raise taxes. You took it from school aid, you've been taking it for years, so that's my just 2 cents, sorry.
Okay, so are we?
All right, we'll play around the numbers, Billy and I, we got
Okay.
kind of a direction to bring to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you
And
very
hopefully
much
we'll
on
have-
that, both of you.
Solid numbers.
Okay, next item on our agenda is our Blue Devil Raves. Candace,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Get you.
What are they done for last meeting, Margaret? Okay, so first I want to do a shout out to the Blue Devils track team for coming in first place in the 2025 Spring Fling competition this past Saturday. And congratulations to Nick Palumbo for scoring a 98 out of 100 in a very, very windy day. It was freezing cold. I don't know how he managed to do a 98, but he did. And we had quite a few other top 95s and up. So it was an amazing competition to watch, even though it was freezing. My other shout out is to Ms. Lemon for dedicating all her efforts and preparation for the fun 9th grade field trip to the Holocaust Museum last week. I know my husband attended, and it was very informative. It was very well planned, and just a really fun field trip for the 9th graders. So that was great. One other one I have is, shout out to Chef Sarah Bishop, who is the Culinary Arts in Blue Devil Cafe. She calls herself the chef, plus teacher. So I went prior to Easter and had lunch with my husband, and we ended up buying a carrot cake for our Easter dinner, and it was absolutely amazing. My father-in-law pretty much ate half the cake and said it was the best carrot cake he had ever had. It was decorated beautifully, came in a beautiful box. It was just it was a great experience, and shout out to Sarah Bishop and the culinary arts class. They did a great job, all of them, even down to the waiting staff, and it was great. And that's it.
Margaret?
I have a few here. Saturday night, the Richmond Education Foundation did our annual fundraiser, and I just want to shout out to Ms. Wolock and our life skills students. They did the plants, flower centerpieces for our tables, and to our high school culinary class, they baked cookies that we put at all the table settings, so the cookies were a big hit. As well, when you said the carrot cake made me think their cookies are really good too. So thank you to them. They helped make our event great. And I just want to shout out to Cynthia. Last week was Administrative Assistant Day, so thank you for the work that you do for us and get all our stuff together for us for meetings. We appreciate it. That's it.
Sarah? Sandy?
Tonight.
Raymond?
Yeah, just another shout out to follow candidates for the track team, shooting really well. So having shot stuff like that before, getting that high a number is quite exceptional with the windy conditions. So great job.
I just want to shout out to, before I start coughing here, the students from the Richmond community who worked this week at the rummage event that was held by St. Augustine. Our students worked very well. They worked hard. They were there on time. They did a really nice job, so I just want to shout out to them. Oh, excuse me. Elizabeth, you want to do our student report?
Okay, so we'll start with the high school. It's coming time for seniors to graduate and get all that stuff put away. So the senior information document is being updated each week and was sent to families on Monday afternoon. It can also be accessed on the school website under principal and newsletter. This is where all commencement, awards, etc. information is housed. Students and parents should check back frequently for the most updated information. Congratulations to all BWAC academic representatives at the MAC All Academic and the MAC All Academic Representatives. We enjoyed celebrating their accomplishments. The ninth graders went on that field trip to the Holocaust Museum, arranged by Ms. Lemon. Over 100 students went and learned about the event and the impact it had on world history. Lots of field trips are coming up. Tomorrow, Teacher Cadet is attending Oakland, and then later this week, Green Club is going to Zoo. I know there's like 2 more going on tomorrow. Prom season has started. Students were able to buy their tickets last week. Reminder that prom is May 16th. And then the Red Cross Blood Drive in memory of Cheyenne Bouchardie is scheduled for May 6th. It will run from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And information on how to register is available on the flyers in the hallway. And then for the middle school, they have a lot going on. They have NWA testing, and the teachers do a fantastic job maintaining the positive energy and productive schedule. We honored our amazing school secretaries, Ms. Stephanie Cabral and Ms. Pastushin, on Wednesday, April 23rd, Administrative Professionals Day. They had their first RMS track meet at home Thursday, April 24th. The boys scored 34 points to North Branch 89, and girls dominating with 90 points against North Branch's 42. They're so proud of their teams, their sportsmanship, and how hard they work. This Wednesday, April 30th, RMS is hosting our 2nd annual Battle of the Bots competition beginning at 4 o'clock. This Thursday, May 1st, RMS is hosting our 2nd annual RMS Film Festival beginning at 6 p.m. Ms. Morella and Ms. May had the opportunity to take several potential RMS families on a tour of our building and were able to showcase the many great learning opportunities our students have. We hope these tours and several we have coming up bring more families to the great district. And then for elementary school, this one's pretty short today. Preschool will be hosting Donuts with Grown-Ups on Wednesday, April 30th. It is a great time for our families to come in and enjoy some fun activities and special time for preschoolers. It's an annual tradition in the Early Childhood Center, and it is going to be an exciting day for everybody. Students are showing incredible growth in NWEA, and they're very proud of their hard work. For athletics and extracurriculars, despite several cancellations in the schedule, spring sports are continuing on. The nice weather has been helping too this week. So, varsity baseball team swept their doubleheader against Yale on Tuesday. Softball did the same and followed up with 2 wins against Armada. The middle school and high school track teams hosted events on Thursday and Friday respectively. They wanted to thank all the volunteers that came to help to make the events run smoothly. And I know they hosted a bake sale for the club to, I think it's adopt an otter. So I made like almost $200 off of it. So the trap team took first place at their spring fling in Mason on Saturday. Boys golf hosted a BWAC jamboree at Richmond Forest this afternoon. Girls soccer is on the road to Lake City today. There's still time to submit nominations for the Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025. Nomination criteria and the link to submit nominations can be found on the district website. The Richmond athletic boosters are also looking for those interested in purchasing bricks for the wall outside the high school gym. Those interested can visit the athletic page on the district website or contact the athletic department. Color guard workshops and auditions will be held after school in the high school the week of May 5th, and the audition will be May 14th. They can work with sports schedules. No band experience is necessary. Dance, choir, or performing arts is suggested. Debate club signups are still out from what I can tell. And then Legally Bond is open in 4 days. Their shows will take place Friday, May 2nd at 7 p.m. and then Saturday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. Tickets can be bought online or in person.
Thank you very much. Mr. Walmsley, Superintendent and Legislative Update.
Okay, from legislative update, the House Education and Workforce Committee is having hearings on school safety prior to our last board meeting, and actually since our last board, I should say. There's a couple bills that have been approved out of the committee and are moving on. House Bill 4225, which require okay to say be printed on the back of student ID badges. I believe we already do that on ours, so you don't need a mandate for that. That's what they're asking for. House Bill 4229 would require the state police to issue quarterly reports on the number of tips they receive related to the school. I don't know what purpose that is, but other than to say that this school got so many tips, but we're going to do it again. This is our legislator's priority right now. House Bill 4222 would mandate schools to update their school safety plan every 3 years, that each building have a crisis response team. That's been in place for years. We already do that. House Bill 4226 would switch one fire drill to a lockdown drill. We're going to do more drills than required, but okay. 42227 would require every intermediate school district to have one emergency and safety manager and one mental health coordinator, but there's no funding attached to that. And House Bill 4258 and House Bill 4259 would require okay to say tips to be transmitted to the affected school and local law enforcement as soon as possible, but within 24 hours. This is, we already get calls on the weekends from our police when we get calls, so I don't know what this priority is. All 5 have been moved on to the House for further consideration. Next one, the legislators are now talking about cell phone bans and getting policies. There's 2 bills that have been introduced or are in committee. One is Senate Bill 234, which I guess if they're going to have to approve one, that would be the one I would recommend approving. It would require all school districts to adopt the policy and implement wireless communication devices and limited school phone use during instructional time and reducing phones for distracted areas. Basically, it's what we do now with the red, yellow, green. We identify areas that you can't use a phone. Many teachers identify classrooms, no classrooms. This one does have options for IEP and medical use, opt-out, if you will. The other one, House Bill 41, is pretty much a blanket, one-size-fits-all policy for everybody across the state. So I don't know about you, but I don't want our policy to mimic people on the west side or the north or the south. It's what works for Richmond. But this one doesn't have, there's no exception. So before I get into the district, today I sent communication out to staff. If you recall last budget that was approved by the state for fiscal year 26, it was a big deal about schools getting this huge retirement savings money. We're going to reimburse employees the 3% that they've been overcharged for years, but we'll make it law October 1st of 25. So they gave us an allocation of $159,000 To date, we spent 135, so that reimbursement stops June 10th. So June 25th, July 10th, July 25th, August 10th, August 25th, September 10th, and September 25th. There's no money to reimburse employees, 3%. So the state, again, underfunded what they wrote it as, we're giving this money to schools. So I sent out an email to staff that basically says, basically I'm giving you 3 paychecks to get prepared, but come the June 25th, the 3% that's taken out, you're not going to see it put back because we're out of money. It equates to about $60,000 we would have to come up with to keep reimbursing staff from June 25th through September 25th. Again, just be cautious how they promote things, because if you're not raising revenue, you're taking it from one pot to feed another pot of funds. So, district update, we have the academic banquet, so Board Member Fortuna, Mr. Sean and Telto are going to join me on that one. Club Day photographs are this Wednesday at the high school. Make sure you smile for that one. If you have Thursday or Friday an opportunity to go to the Blue Devil Cafe, you can get there early before they run out of food. This week's menu is a watermelon fajita mint salad or a mixed green salad. There's a side of loaded baked potato salad, pulled pork barbecue sandwich, and strawberry shortcake. So that's what's being served this week. What else if you can make it? It's from 10:30 to 1. It's open to the public. This weekend is the Performing Arts for the Legally Blonde. So after meeting with the co-directors last week, Ms. Sins and Mr. Braun, the thing that they're most excited about is the audience, the acting, singing, and the dancing that's involved with this. So it's really going to be good. We talked about the blood drive already. And then Board Member Steyer and I, if anybody has and wants to join us, you can still just let me know. We're going to head to the early college graduation on May 7th. High school won first division today, their honors chorale at Oakland University today. May 13th is their final concert, and they're not charging, so it's a free concert on May 13th, so they are really good.
Right, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Normally in the past, they did like a food drive though, and it wasn't like a cost, I don't know if they're doing that at all.
I haven't seen anything they put out that references
So
a
I'll make
food
sure I
drive.
bring that up.
But if I hear anything, because usually they'll put out a flyer.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
But I have not seen anything. Just want to thank the foundation again for the fundraiser. They do really good work, and for those that don't know, the scholarships we give seniors who graduate, the number of summer camps they've been able to send kids to, and then this is staff grants, just really help it and make Richmond a great place to be. And then finally, just prior to our next board meeting on May 12th, I sent you an appointment. We have the class of 2025 top 10 dinner that we honor them on May 12th. And then right before the board meeting, we'll also have the reception for the Teacher of the Year on that one.
So that was at 6:30, right?
It's
The
actually at
teacher,
5:30.
it's 5, I think on your calendar has 5. I think if we start by 5:30, we're eating.
Okay, all right.
We should be done by 6:30, and then we'll have the reception for the Teacher of the Year and
That makes sense.
recognize them
Okay.
at the board meeting.
I think that's good, okay.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Items of interest from the board. Sandy?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Margaret? Raymond?
Nothing at this time.
Sarah?
No.
And Candace?
Yes, I do. So I was not on the board when this is regarding the standard-based grading versus the traditional percentage grading system. I obviously wasn't on the board back when we decided to change over. So I guess I'm just asking Ryan, is there any way that we can get some sort of a presentation or something that just kind of talks about how Richmond has one way or the other pros or cons to when we decided to switch that over? Has it helped our grading system here specific to Richmond? I mean, I educated myself about the two different systems, but how has it actually worked for us?
So is there
since
something
I
in
know we-
particular you're looking for an outcome that,
Could there be at this point? I don't know if we've been doing it enough years. I know, was it 2018, 19?
What year was that?
So we were on the board, I was on the board.
Longer than that.
No, I remember
No,
going
I
on.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was
About
my
that.
first year, and I came on in 2015, so I want to say 15, 16. Sharon, I don't
I think
That's
that's
a
right
pretty
too.
good-
I don't remember.
Okay, I think it was around 15, 16.
I think it was, I think you're right.
Because I was on the board, and I remember being brand new. No, yeah, there was a
I know, it's been
presentation,
so
everybody got up and presented, I very much
No.
remember that.
You're talking about that whole deal at the high school with the whole grading, the whole.
no, I thought it was
No,
Keith,
'cause-
so maybe that was her.
'cause
the
Keith-
first year. You think it started 15, 16?
I
think
got
it
on in
started
15.
I think she's right, 15, 16
Yeah.
school year, I would
That's-
say.
It was one of my first votes, and I'll tell you what, I didn't know enough. I just listened to everybody, all the professionals, and if I could go back and undo some of that, I would. I would love to get a presentation going. I think as a parent, seeing it now,
Kind of.
I don't think it helps our 8th graders at all transitioning into 9th grade. I know it was a big culture shock for my now 9th grader going from that, and I don't care for it myself as a parent. From a parent perspective, I don't care for it. Now, I'd love to hear the teachers and what they think. I'd also love maybe a parent survey or something, because I know a lot of parents, from what I've heard, don't like it. But I'd love a presentation.
Yeah,
Or
just
something.
maybe even a follow-up. I just, the upper levels of the middle school going into the high school, I think, I think maybe even, the idea of perhaps starting it in 8th grade, going down to traditional based. It has been interesting having a 9th grader this year.
Yeah.
And I've attended all the conferences I could in 8th grade and 9th grade. And I mean, as a parent, I understand. We, as parents, had to transition ourselves, but I just wanted to see if, I haven't had any issues with it, but up until, there's been some questions about the proficiencies and who, gets what grade and.
It's subjective.
What it's, and how that goes. I've questioned that.
Grading
too.
subjective.
I was just going to
I
say,
mean-
standards-based is better than giving a grade, I can tell
If
you.
you take a test, though, you're right or you're wrong, right? I mean, other than an
If-
essay,
Yeah,
right?
if
That
we're
is
truly
the
want
issue.
kids to be explaining, we shouldn't be
Yeah.
giving multiple choice.
Correct.
It should be demonstrate, it should be show me you know the knowledge, it should be explain your writing, your thought
But,
process.
for
But-
example, my daughter was absent, we were on vacation last year and she was in 8th grade then, and so she missed a lesson, she got an NP. She's never gotten an NP in her life, but because we were on vacation, the time that standard was talked about, she got an NP. I
On
was-
one standard.
On one standard. That threw me over the edge. I was so unhappy
But
with
grading,
that.
if I get a 0 on.
But
in
you can
second
make
week,
it up then.
Once you get a 0, it's hard to add.
Well, if
you
you're
get a
on
0.
vacation, you should be able to make it up.
No,
No, why?
no,
What?
because
That's
we don't
ridiculous.
encourage vacations, we encourage you to be here.
But
And-
that's
Well-
unrealistic. First of all, that's unrealistic.
All right,
Okay.
I would agree it's the perspective of we're not going to be able to control or have any say over when
No.
families take vacation.
Right.
But now put yourself from a teacher's perspective. I got 2 kids on vacation this week, 2 on vacation this week, 3 on vacation this week. How do you manage that?
And it should
I
be
don't
the
know.
student's
So,
responsibility to
The
make sure
expectation,
that
my
they're.
angle is we have 180 school days. We publish a calendar. The district's expectation, I get it, you can take your own choice, that is your choice as a family, or my choice as a family too.
Sure.
But there's got to be some parameters, and it's, I mean, you look at high school on a half day, half the kids don't even show up. If it's upper elementary school, we wouldn't count in the
First
day.
grade
so.
breakfast, But I guess I just want to ask,
Yeah.
what kind of presentation though? Are you, because,
I don't know
What do
why
you-
we did it in the first place, why we switched over. Was it supposed to improve the academics of the children, or
It's supposed
make
to
them more responsible or younger
spell
age,
out.
or, I mean, what was, I don't,
So you want to know the why?
correct. And have we, has those expectations gone up on the why?
What's
Did
been
we
the
meet-
impact?
Did we meet the goal that we were
of
looking
what the
for?
why was?
Right.
So that's what, you're not.
Something
okay.
to do with
So
that,
you're,
right.
why did we do it? And whatever that reason was, is how we've been doing it, is it working towards that Y? Is that what you're
Pretty
saying?
much, yeah.
And is this having a,
Is there data to show?
and I would say, is there data to show, is this a positive or negative effect going from 8th grade to 9th grade? Because I feel like it was a culture shock, and I feel like 8th grade, I agree with Candace, maybe we don't change it for the whole middle school, but I think 8th grade, it's not helping them.
So then it goes down a grade.
Exactly.
No,
But it
what I'm
gives them
saying,
another
then
year.
it
Sure, it shifts
then
down.
it
but
shifts down, that's all
sure,
it does,
but
is
it
it
gives
shifts
them-
down.
But before their GPA is really hitting from high school, they have a year to acclimate to it.
And you are correct. I mean, the first, they did, the high school is doing an amazing job, by the way. I'm not saying not. They gave them their GPA after that first
Yeah,
quarter.
for sure.
It was great because it taught them, oh, watch this number. But there was still that 3-4 months of, I don't need to retake that when I should, or, and then now the GPA's here and it's harder to build up maybe than if we had learned a little bit of that last year.
Yeah, I think they need a year.
We maybe would have started out a little bit higher. And again, I don't want my situation to be whatever, but maybe just to understand the why versus
We can,
what it was before.
I agree, and I just want to say, I don't think it's just your situation. I've heard it from multiple parents in the community. Multiple.
And also, the educators and how they feel about it too. I mean, I would love to hear, I don't know if that happened back then.
Yeah,
their
they have
concerns, or I wasn't on the board, I don't know.
Well, it wasn't just done by administration, I can tell
No,
you.
there was a lot of support
It
for
wasn't, because I subbed over there at the middle school. I worked on those standards at the middle school and met with those teachers when I was subbing that first year that Mr. Berkmeyer was out. They sat down and we looked at what the standards are required from the state, so that those standards were on the sheet or the grid. I actually typed them up and filled them out. And the idea behind that is that you as a parent know exactly what standards, these are the standards required by our state, and these are the ones that your child knows or not knows. It spells it out much better than a letter B for an English class.
But have you ever read some of them? 'Cause
I have, I wrote them and typed up a lot
some
of
of
them.
them are,
the standard?
like, yeah, and some of the grading on the standards.
Well, from what I understand, it breaks down the learning and
Yeah.
ties it.
Well, what it does is it shows you specifically what those standards are.
Yeah.
And again, if you were to ask me a B in English class here at the high school, do you know what they're covering for standards? Do you have any idea?
Absolutely not.
You don't. But if you look at standards at the middle school in an English, it spells out exactly, punctuation, commas, whatever it is. So that's the idea behind going to the
When that happened, I
standards.
recall the conversations, but I wasn't on the board when that happened, and I didn't have a student that was graded that way. So, I mean, I would be interested to see.
Yeah, it'd be good to review again.
And another side one, Billy, you had mentioned a few times in some of your presentations also that you were kind of collecting, to try to make, and maybe even our newer curriculum helps them, but understand each class or what MP is, what an AP is.
Yeah.
Kind of make it more across
So
the
that is
board.
what they've been doing this year at the middle school, and even, like Dr. like the NPPs, definitely, I think we all recognize that if someone is absent or something, I mean, obviously there's a chance for them to recoup that somewhere, but truly adding another category, which we, I think, are calling LP, like lacking, or LE, lacking evidence. So if there was a situation where they were absent right before the quarter came to an end, okay, it's really more just like they haven't gotten there yet, like we haven't been able to assess them, and we'll get to it.
It's not saying that they don't have.
With
Yeah.
that, so, right, no, so, I mean, so we are, but so, I mean, that's just one example, but yes, so the staff at the middle school is going through right now kind of a refresh on it, because I mean, I can definitely agree, it seems like there was probably initially a lot of steam behind it, and then, things changed, COVID, administrative changes, I think it got kind of, right, curriculum, it kind of probably wasn't as big of a focus, so we have been really trying to work on that this year. Have had lots of conversation with staff and, trying to move in the right direction, but I agree, it is a good time to push back and have some
And then we can do that in the presentation and move on from here.
Okay.
Although I just want to ask Brian, in that presentation, can you maybe look at also what other districts in our area are doing? And present that as well? Thank you.
Okay, on the last one for items of interest, everyone should have a copy of the vision statement, so that these were the ones that were provided to me. What the process, or what I would like to do, is just have a basic discussion tonight, and at our next meeting, we will vote on either one mission statement that's on here, or one that we may put together, maybe pull it together. So does anyone have any thoughts on any one of these right now, or that they really like strongly? So we can I'm just looking for a discussion right now at this time.
Sure, I'll give you. My top two, provide every student with the opportunity to succeed and lead in an inclusive and diverse world. And the other one is to inspire and empower students to become compassionate, innovative, and responsible citizens of the world.
Where was that one? I'm sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, right there, thank you. I'm just kind of marking so I have some ideas. Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts or inputs?
I like, I actually like 1 through 3, the first top 3. Number 1 I like.
I like number 1, I think. that
I was just going to say, that was one of my picks. Let's see, so, see, did you, Sarah, say?
I like 1.
Anybody else, any thoughts? Anyone that if you thought you wanted to mix it up or no, or?
I think it just goes with our mission statement well, too.
I don't think it has to be super long, I think that.
No. No, it does not need to be. Okay, if there's no other discussion, then I'm going to bring it back. And we will take a vote, go from there. Thank you very much. Okay, public comments. Since the last board meeting, the board received an email from a parent regarding her son's high school transcript. This email was directed to Mr. Walmsley, who in turn directed it to Mrs. Zabo, who was able to correct the missing items that were on the transcript. The board received another email from an individual who rents golf simulators for student-only parties. Again, this was forwarded to Mrs. Zabo for consideration. There are no public comments that need addressing from the last board meeting. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? Being no public comments, we will move on to our act.
Can I just ask before you finish, the transcript, the whole board got that email? I did not get it, because I did.
I got the email, so whatever I get it, I didn't forward it to you.
I don't.
Okay.
I never got it, that is.
I apologize. I should
And the golf
have.
simulator?
But that one I just thought was
I got
kind
that
of.
one. I did get that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I-
so if you
I
get
will-
them, you need to forward them.
I know that. I know that. So if I fail to do that, I apologize, and I'll make sure that I do so in the future. Okay, action items. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of an overnight extended student trip to Urbana, Ohio.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight/extended student trip to Urbana, Ohio as presented on April 14, 2025 and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Sandy, I'm going to give it to you. I heard your voice first. Any discussion? Sorry, Ray. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of an overnight extended student trip to Hudson, Michigan.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight extended student trip to Hudson, Michigan as presented on the April 14, 2025 meeting and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Margaret got it first. Sorry again.
Still got one more chance.
You got one more. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a media center furniture for Will Lee Elementary School and the Richmond High School.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and award a contract to school specialty for media center furniture at Will L. Lee School and Richmond High School for an amount not to exceed $135,067. As outlined in the attached documentation, the non-bond capital project fund shall be utilized to purchase this furniture.
Support.
Thank you.
We're all going to be quiet
I
anyway.
know. Okay. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Candace?
Aye.
Raymond?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Sarah? I vote aye. Motion carries. Being no further business, the board will adjourn at 9:45. Thank you.